What is up, my ninjas, and welcome to my little, it's almost Christmas video. So, luckily this year I was prepared and I managed to take my last bit of PTO one day before Christmas Eve, and then I set up another one before my anniversary with my wife, so that way I can have a little more time, because typically I end up stuck working and I don't get to do anything, you know what I mean? And I want to chill. I want to relax. I want to enjoy my time, you know what I'm saying? So it's been a while, and life has been kind of like, woof, just throwing shit at me. But I managed to make it out the other side. We're almost through this dumpster fire of a year that is 2020. Although I have to say that it hasn't been as bad for me and my family as it has been for some, and I'm thankful for this. And my heart goes out to those who have been struggling, because, you know, nobody asked for this shit. None of us did, you know, none of us regular people. So, you know, it kind of sucks. It really sucks that is what, you know, some people got. You know, that's the end of the stick that many people got. So like I said, my heart goes out to you. As always, sending positive energy out in your direction. Hopefully you guys, you know, you make it through, and next year is better and full of more promise. But yeah, as you just heard, my one of the videos I'm working on right now, I'm uploading as we speak, is it just finished not buffering, but rendering. So it's ready to be exported to YouTube. I actually just finished not too long ago the second half of an Off Our Brains that I did with Zorpox the Destroyer. And we started this shit at the end of August. I want to say maybe the beginning of September or something like that. And we started, my computer did the usual shit with the program I was using. I was trying to record via Filmora, and it's not really the best when it comes to, like, you know, podcasting and such. And it cut off part of our podcast. So this time I just was like, fuck it, let me go back to Audacity. Years ago I used Audacity. A lot of people use Audacity. It's free, it's simple, and, you know, I did a better version of that. So you'll get to hear our conversation that we completed. It was fun talking with him. Zorpox is a cool guy. You should check out him and his friend Grimm's channel, Zorpox and Grimm's Reviews. They do a cool little segment called Pass the Salt, and they just talk about things that are essentially not the focus of many collectors collecting, I don't know, world. You know, they talk about stuff that regular people seem to talk about, you know. Which Power Rangers did you like growing up? You know what I mean? If you see them, will you buy them? You know, do you need to buy all of them? You know, that kind of stuff, you know. What Gundams do you like? You know? Because you notice, like, a lot of people are kind of like, I gotta buy everything. Here, it's a sampling of everything, you know, of things. And I like hearing that from fellow collectors, because it needs to be represented. We're not all independently wealthy, so we can't all collect all the things, you know? So this weird illusion that everybody that collects action figures just has mountains of disposable income, that shit needs to go somewhere, because it's become to the point where even during a pandemic, have you noticed, like, prices on figures rose during the pandemic? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Figures aren't even a necessity. I mean, they are for us because we're collectors and we're geeks and, you know, dorks. We love our pop culture related stuff, but I mean, are you serious? You freaking raised the prices on action figures during a pandemic? Like, screw you. Hasbro and NECA and all you guys that make, you know, figures of properties that we love. The good part is that if you wait long enough, another company will pick that shit up. That's just the way it works. So I don't know, but all that aside, you know, definitely check out Grimm and Zorpox's channel. I'll have a link in the doobly-doo in the bottom. Yeah, let's talk some figures. Let's just get into our geek space. This year has been stressful for me, so I've been constantly jumping into collecting, but the collecting space online has been kind of shitty. So I haven't been posting like I normally do, because the discourse blows. You know, the videos that we put our heart and soul into don't get the attention because it takes some of us longer to make those videos than other people who do just quick rushed videos, but they got the figure first. So I've noticed that those are the videos that people, they pay all the attention to, and the videos that you put your heart and soul into and do extra, they don't get the attention that they deserve. So that's what made me say, you know what? For the end of the year, one of my end of the year videos, I'm just going to chill out and we're just going to talk figures just the way they are. No big shit, no big fuss, no big cinematic intro. We're just going to sit down and talk action figures. And I'm going to be relaxed because I've already had, well, in a little bit, we'll be doing some breakfast for dinner with my sons and my wife. And, you know, we're keeping things chill. But anyway, I said we'll talk action figures. So let's talk action figures. Okay, so this year, my goal was to collect the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from Hasbro's Lightning Collection. I had been struggling to find these guys, and if you've been looking at Hasbro's Lightning Collection at all, you know that the figures have been scalped heavily and the prices are fucking insane. And I mean this. I mean, they've gotten to the point where I had to just stop and just, you know, go back to my Zen approach and just be like, you know, if I'm going to find them, I'll find them. I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to pay the crazy prices. And I will just wait and see who pops up and I will get them that way. And these figures are good. Don't get me wrong. They're worth it, but they're not worth, you know, hundreds of dollars a piece or $80 a piece. You know, like, get the fuck out of here. They're still $20 figures. No matter what anybody is selling them for, they still are built like $20 figures. They still are constructed with $20 worth of materials. You should never be paying $80 because some, you know, non-fan, not even fans, but the scalpers are controlling the narrative. Don't even go into that. But I managed after a lot. It was even to the point where, give me a second. It was even to the point where at one, for a short, brief period of time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get these guys and let them be my stand-ins for the three that I couldn't find for a reasonable price. So my Zach was going to be the Zach from the Legacy collection, along with, I need to just stand them up so you can see them more, along with the Trini from the Lightning collection, or from the Legacy collection as well. And I just, like, after I got them and I had them posed next to the team, the size difference, the body type difference, the stylized approach to the point where they look like the Marvel Comics Jim Lee body type, 90s era superhero bodies. Because I mean, look at Trini's body. Jesus, are you kidding me? Oh, fuck me. Okay, let's try that again. Look at this body. Look at this. Look at these curves, man. I was like, are you serious? So I was like, that's not Trini. Trini had a shape, you know what I mean? And she looked cool as a ranger and everything. She filled out the suit, but I mean, in the footage, they just had regular standard builds. And if you really were paying attention, you know that the Yellow Ranger in the Japanese version was actually a dude. So the footage had a square build Yellow Ranger, so you didn't need this much body. But it's cool. I mean, it's a differentiation between the American show and the Japanese show, so I get it. You know, I was there. I'm an actual child of the 80s and 90s. I grew up watching both Zoo Ranger. Jesus Christ. I can't win with this today. I grew up watching Zoo Ranger and, Mighty Morphin. I watched Zoo Ranger right before Mighty Morphin came out. So the whole thing was weird to me. I grew up on Super Sentai. I've told you guys before. My dad's from Brazil. Brazil loves a lot of Japanese programming because Brazil has a huge Japanese population. I think it's second to Japan itself. So a lot of us, grew up with that kind of influence if we have any ties to Brazil itself. So anyway, I was about to settle on these guys, and then I was like, you know what? There's just something lacking about them, and I just don't dig the overall feel. So these are going to be donated to Little Strydent. And I had to go and search the others. Luckily, I got a couple tips from some fellow ninjas that helped me out to let me know when Trini went back up for sale on Big Bad Toy Store. So I got her for 22, and then I turned around and I found Billy, and I got him for, I think, roughly $22, maybe a little bit more with shipping on Amazon. And then I was able to get Zach from Hasbro Pulse, which was a bunch of bullshit that was going on with them. I ordered the figure. It gave me the FedEx shipping information. It said so, showed the map and everything on the site. So I put in the information about 2 days later, and then it says not found. And I'm like, okay, let me wait a little bit longer. I go back, I put in the information, nothing. I'm like, okay, so where's my package, guys? Like, what's going on? So I call Hasbro Pulse. They give me the runaround, as they always do, or Hasbro customer service. And I'm like, okay, so I would like my my package. Can you guys tell me what's going on? I'm like, I don't understand why it would say, not found. I mean, is there an issue with shipping in general? Because I know it's Christmas, Christmas is coming up and a lot of people have packages coming. And no, this was the beginning of December. I want to say I ordered it the end of November, like right after Thanksgiving, because somewhere around then is when they got back in stock. And so dude tells me to make sure I entered the number correctly or something like that, or, I need to give it more time. And I'm like, dude, this isn't my first time using FedEx's shipping. I'm like, I ship things myself, through eBay. I know how this thing works. Then he sends me a reply after I told him, like, look, if you're going to give me that kind of answer, I mean, that's not helpful. Can someone actually look into this? Then he sends me the shipping information for USPS. And I'm like, if your website tells me FedEx, then I'm going to FedEx. There's no reason why I would go look for it on the United States Postal Service. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I was like, this is some bullshit, but then I was like, whatever, thanks. I was like, you have a Merry Christmas, My package showed up. I'm happy. Up until then, I was actually about to just, try my best to like customize this bad boy here, because I was under the impression that this was going to be the only Zach that we were going to get, I thought he was going to be it. And so, and I remember him wearing the armor for a very short period of time, but yeah, I was about to be content. And then when I saw they released, images of the standard Black Ranger, I got really excited because I'm like, as much as I like the fact that you offered this that only showed up for like, I don't know, a couple minutes in an episode, maybe a minute in one of the episodes, one of the early episodes of Zero Ranger or Mighty Morphin, I'm like, I would have rather have gotten actual Zach, so I got that. And like things that they did that kind of like pissed me off were like, it's devious in a way, but I'll show you so you can get an idea. So you have the two head sculpts, and then you have the two different modes for his axe. You have the blaster mode and the axe mode. So the standard one, or I should say the armored one, came with the I'm sorry, I'm doing it wrong. The regular one came with the axe in axe mode, as you can see right here. Hey, stop playing. There you go. Can you guys see that? I'm gonna have to pull this back and then there you go. So you can see, came with the axe in axe mode, and then the standard one I just put it the way with the, in axe mode with him because that's how you saw it in the show. And then the armored one, or the, Jesus, armored came with the standard axe. Standard came with the blaster mode axe, which is a bunch of bullshit. Fucking clear up. What are you doing? Zoom in. There you go. Which is bullshit, You could still make the power blaster with either or, because there's this notch right up there at the top. You see that? That fits into the bow so that it can stand there. And it's on here too. If you look closely, let me turn it around. Same notch. It's right there. You see it? I apologize. I wasn't prepared, but yeah, you see that? Same notch. It's just added protection or security with it holding when you have the front piece down. That works better. But it was weird, I was kind of like, are you serious? You guys are fucking devious, man. You're always finding ways to sell the same thing multiple times. You know what I mean? With some kind of weird slight difference, just to make us go after it. But it worked. It's not going to work again, though. I can tell you that much. I'm not falling for this shit again. It's just that in my whole life, collecting Super Sentai, collecting Power Rangers stuff, I never had the full Zyuranger roster, like in a quality line. Like I had the line that came out when the movie came out, if you remember. They were like they had like the vac metal bodies. Oh, I hated that. The vac metal paint job. Come on. See, this is my big problem with these guys. Yeah, so I never had them, in a quality setup. So, like almost like figure art style setup where they're just that good looking, posable, all their weapons and all that and accessories, and just that they look the part, Oh, and let me show you the heads. So here's the head that comes with the armored, Black Ranger. It's all right. It's got too much flash going on. It's kind of sloppily done in some ways compared to what I'm used to, but it's not terrible. Not terrible at all. It doesn't exactly look like Zack at first glance, but the more you look at it, you can see it from certain angles, especially like that. That's Zack for sure, or even like that. Then we have the one that came with the standard head with the dreads, and all again, because it's probably the same head. Is it? Let's put them close side by side and see what we see. It's not exactly the same. It's a new sculpt. Doesn't quite look like Walter Emmanuel Jones, but it does look like him somewhat. Enough that he can pass, you know what I'm saying? Somehow his hair went from black to brown. I don't know when that happened. It's kind of weird, but whatever, I'm not going to really be using those that much. But, the goal was just to have the whole team and have them looking good, and you got to admit they look fucking good. If you're not going to get the figure arts, which are way, way overpriced, then these would be the ones to get if you could get them for regular price. If you see them for those weird $80 here, Trini going for $100, and it's not signed, it's not coming from her grave, or she came down with the figure itself, or her ghost is inhabiting the figure. If any of that shit is not there, there's no reason why that figure should be like over the $20. But for some reason, scalpers have been scalping her at like $80. Some of them $100, and I'm just like, what the fuck is different? I don't understand what you're doing. Why? So if you can find them for $20 a piece, or maybe even 30, that's about as far as I would go. 30 plus shipping, then get them. If you see them for something above that, then pass, because you could just wait and get some other team. You know what I'm saying? And you'll get similar experience because they'll be different. They'll be the different colors, and they'll look way better. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I was frustrated seeing those prices, but they're quality figures. Don't get me wrong. They're probably the best figures you can get of this line, of these, of Mighty Morphing, without paying for import prices, because the only choices you have are these, the classic figures, there's a couple different legacy releases from like a few years back, and all of them go for weird prices online. So it's kind of strange. In the talk with Zorpox, we did towards the end, I did a search for the 90s movie versions of them in the armor. And all of those are about roughly $20, $30. They're not worth $20 or $30, but that's what they're going for right now. Except for the Black Ranger, who goes for over $100. So yeah, with Power Rangers, it's strange. It's like the fan base typically has money, and Hasbro and Bandai have figured this out, so they just go nuts with these releases, you know? And scalpers have definitely figured it out, and they go nuts with the prices of these releases because they don't last very long on the secondary market. So if you see these for regular price, go for them. They're worth it. If not, pass. I also managed to pick up one of my favorite... Oh, before I actually go into that, let me move back a little bit. Daizujin. I managed to pick up the Megazord from Mighty Morphin. Actually, let me move out so you can see him. And this was a surprise. I didn't even know this was going to be a thing. Apparently, Hasbro did like a 3-pack or so of these figures of the Zords, and yeah, they form a perfectly, you know, serviceable Megazord. All the details are there. The head is there. I mean, look at this head. I was impressed. I was like, are you serious? I mean, all the detail is there. I mean, his joints are kind of weird. You can't bend the knees backwards. They bend forward based on the transformation, which is strange. But I mean, he doesn't really do a lot of crouching. He kind of does the robot walk in the show. So there's that. He even has like the little jet things or gun things on his back, like he's supposed to have. You know, the tail folds up back there. I was impressed, man. And then the power sword. It looks like the power sword. It's even got the little details. You know, the little embellishments or whatever decorative details on it, which I was impressed, man. I mean, it's like Hasbro is doing some interesting things. It's kind of sad that they're not going to have this license that much longer, but they're probably going to churn out a shit ton of Power Rangers product in the next year or so. But I mean, that's pretty good though, you know? So yeah, I'm impressed and I'm happy because, you know, now I don't need anything else Mighty Morphin. They're done. They look good. I have the whole team. I'm happy with them. Story over. Sounds bad, but, you know, I don't have to worry about that shit anymore. Because it was frustrating, you know, trying to search for them and get them and you know, do all sorts of things with them. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, it shouldn't be this difficult to get a team that's been on the shelves like 50 times since their release. You know what I mean? Like 50 times by multiple, well, several times by Bandai. And then there's been multiple, you know, releases in different formats by Bandai since the initial release. You know, it shouldn't be that hard just because Hasbro got them. But Hasbro has that devoted fan base that's almost cultish in their behavior. So like any release comes out, you've got these cultish scalpers that will snatch up the figures and sell them for triple the price. And you got the fan base that's just waiting to pay it. So it's kind of an uphill battle, but yeah, it's probably the last time I'm going to go through all that shit for, you know, Lightning Collection figures. They always pop up with few exceptions because I bought him, Red Ranger, Pink Ranger, and the armored Black Ranger in the store. So, you know, they do show up in the store. It's just, you know, do all of them show up in the store? Now, here is one of my favorite Rangers of all time, Mr. Jack Landers, the SPD Red Ranger. And I saw him in the store once, a long time ago. It wasn't really that long ago. It was months ago. And instead, I was picking up other stuff. I think I was shopping for stuff for Little Strydent, so I wasn't thinking about this. I saw him, and I was like, oh, cool, he's out. Because I wasn't really thinking they were going to release him anytime soon. And they did, and it looks good. And I was like, oh, I'll get him. And I didn't get him. And then finally, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go get him. I saw him on eBay for $20-something, like $22, $21, and I got him. free shipping and everything. I think I got them from Hasbro Pulse, possibly, because they seem to have the lowest prices when it comes to these guys on eBay. Love the figure. The pedigree was already set in motion by these and the ones that came before it. You already know what the joints are going to be like. Head sculpt is pretty decent. I don't say that much, but this looks like the actor. From certain angles, it looks weird, but it captures the shape of his face. You know, it's like a good essence, and I like it. It's not every day that you get like a bunch of brown characters. You know what I mean? Like, they don't usually offer us brown characters often, you know, and not early in the life cycle of a line. Typically, they save us for the end, and so it's nice to get him. And I also got the Beast Morphers Red Ranger, or Go Red Buster. We call him Jaguar Red in my house. And I want to talk about him a little bit more. Things I want to talk about with this guy, though, are his weapons, man. The weapons. They did a great job with these weapons, and I was really impressed to see that they went that way. You know, I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised, because all the Rangers come with good representation of their, or good representations of their individual weapons. So he's got his Delta Magnums. Come on, stop playing with me. Really? There we go. They look good, right? Oh my God. There we go. I was pretty amazed. I was like, wow, it looks good. And they actually fit together like they're supposed to in order to form the Striker. I think it's called the Delta Striker, if I remember correctly. And it looks good. Hey, focus here. There you go. It looks good. It looks like it could blow somebody the fuck away. And all the details here. And I'm impressed because on many of like the Mighty Morphin weapons, they're missing details that were actually present on the Bandai versions of their weapons. But the weapons were more properly done, like, and they seem sturdier on the Hasbro version. So, you know, it's kind of like a toss-up, you know. You get the essence, but you don't get all the details on the Hasbro ones. On the Bandai ones, you get all the details. You get okay plastic, but overall, you know, it's an essence, I guess, is what I'm saying. So I was impressed. I'm impressed with him. I have a few more things to talk about for Lightning Collection. So let's move on to talk about the Go Busters. All right, so we're back. Okay, so Go Busters. Hasbro still hasn't released the whole team. They've pretty much just released Red and Blue and Blaze. I've been collecting this team since SH Figuarts. The thing is, at the time that I started, Red Buster was the most affordable, and I did a review on him along with some Kamen Rider Ryuki figures, and I think one of my Fies figures, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. It's been so long, but I've had Red Buster for a grip. And the thing that I want to focus on, as much as I love the others, like I said, these two, Red and Blue, are actually Lightning Collection. She's part of the budget, like, kids line. I don't know what they call them. I forgot, but you can tell because look at her joints. She doesn't have the double jointed knees. She has the swivel at the knee as well. And but she's the right scale as far as like height. Because in that line, and let me actually show you a little bit more so you understand what I'm saying. In that line, and I'll stand her off to the side and I'll just show you with Red, because I have all the versions of Red, standard Red. Let's put them side by side. By side. You see how small he is? and you see how bright his colors are. And this jacket, because there's no segments or anything, it looks more accurate to the, on screen. But the most accurate of the bunch is still the Figuarts one, because the Figuarts one has the proper symbol. He has the blue and the orange in his morpher. The others just have the, I think just the orange. Let's see what he has. I can't remember. I think he has the orange and the silver. Like, they both have orange and silver. But, Figuarts has all the detail, as always. So, initially, when I first saw that Hasbro was doing these guys, I was like, shit, let me go get let me get them. And I was able to get all three all at once. And I also was able to get Blaze and Roxy all together. So I had all the main people. I didn't really care for anybody else to have on my shelf. So you see I have yellow and red and blue. And I'll stand them over here so you can see them all together. I got a lot to say about them, and then I'm going to move on to other guys. But here's Red standing alongside his team. But you see what I'm talking about. And somehow Zach is taking the all the attention. All right, there you go. You got the whole shebang-a-bang. But anyway, let's look over here a little more. There we go. So these three in this format, they have pretty decent articulation. I was surprised. I mean, they don't have any double joints anywhere. Everything is single jointed, but then they have the swivels at the elbow as well, instead of having the swivel at the bicep like the Lightning Collection and like Figuarts. Which is also weird for Figuarts, because Figuarts always does well, I shouldn't say always, but they happen to fairly regularly do the swivel at the anatomically correct bicep swivel. But all of them, the bad guys and the good guys, have the same articulation scheme. Yeah, I know Roxy only has one of her guns in her hands. She's strange. She doesn't stand up correctly. It's frustrating sometimes posing her. But I dug her design from watching her in Go Busters. There's actually a couple episodes where she throws down and the fight is amazing. There's one where she fights Blue and it's just woo, fucking amazing. And then the fights in fucking Beast Morphers are just womp womp. But anyway, this is the basic assortment, I guess you could call them. And so for a while, I thought that was all we were going to get. So I was geeked when I compared them to, the Go Busters that I had from Figuarts. I was actually pretty impressed with what they managed to pull off, because overall, he can do a lot of things. I mean, can he do everything? No, definitely can't do everything. It's definitely a budget figure, and you can tell. But he looked enough the part, and I figured, he would be a good stand-in until the Black Series got to Jaguar Red, as I like to call him. I always come up with these names for the characters and reimagining who they could be, like a code name for them. And I'm just going to say some of my... Jaguar Red sounds better than Red Buster, and it sounds better than whatever he's called in America. Beast Morpher Red. It's always something fucking generic. But anyway, then Hasbro came out with the Black Series. And this was the first Black Series figure that I picked up. And I was impressed. I'm still fairly impressed with the line in general. And I think people have undersold how well done this figure is. And I know it's that same logic that, oh, it's a red. They're so generic. There's a red on every team. Yeah, we know. Reds are amazing. People should have given him more props. Like, I love how side by side you can see the difference, but it's not done in the old, the old version, the old way that Bandai used to do this. Back in the day, Bandai did what Capcom Japan has been doing when they redesign all when they redesigned all the characters for Street Fighter 4, they made everybody jacked because they say that's what the American audience wants. But there's no nuance there, and that's not true. We love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not jacked. You know what I mean? We love Ant-Man. Ant-Man's not jacked. Although some people do diss the shit out of Ant-Man. You look at Fortnite, most of the Fortnite characters are not jacked, and that's a 100% very American game, you know? We do like characters with muscles, but there's like nuance to it. We do like characters who don't have muscles if it's thematically appropriate. You know what I'm saying? But give me a second and I'll show you exactly what I mean by the difference between Hasbro and Bandai's approach. It's like the Japanese approach to a lot of American properties, especially with Power Rangers, which it's strange because like if you compare the actors had more muscles in the US than the Japanese versions, but like they weren't Schwarzenegger. But then look at what their interpretation is of what they thought we would want. Like, that's just stupid. I mean, look at the difference between the two. Tiny head and giant muscles. It's like, come on, guys. Like, and I get it anatomically if we're talking about how your anatomy works. As you get more muscles, your head is going to stay the same size because your head is not a muscle. So your head doesn't necessarily grow. That's why guys getting super buff look so weird. Because they're just so, like, their body is just so seemingly out of proportion with their head, and it's a byproduct of that much muscle, you know? But like, look at those pecs, man. I mean, what the fuck? That's ridiculous. Look at the abs on this guy. I mean, like, is that necessary? I mean, and for the time, this was all you could get when it came to Lost Galaxy. And trust me, I have the whole collection minus Zenith, and there's like a couple weird like vehicles that they came with. So and this is my original one from the 90s. Like this is a cool toy. It's just not accurate, you know? So Hasbro is doing the Lord's work when they started doing these more accurate designs. I mean, his chest looks like a Ranger chest, straight up bird chest, because they wear padding and all that stuff. Plus the suits aren't skin tight like that. Boots fit the way that the boots are supposed to fit. I mean, like, they look legit. Even the color of the blade, the sword, they got the silver, the gold, and then the white handle. I was impressed about that. Because Lost Galaxy is my favorite team, probably my favorite of all the teams. It was one of my favorite seasons because it was very unique. With even the way their swords kind of started out as their morphers, and then they got the morphers later, and then it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of things in the series. It's the usual confusion that you get from Super Sentai, but it was wrapped up in a pretty decent season with some cool concepts that could be revisited later on that separated them from the other seasons. Because, you know, after Space, all the seasons were like independent of them, you know, of each other. They didn't have to rely on what came before. It was like their own version. Each one was another version of the you know, the tokusatsu formula, because that's how it is in Japan. They're not all connected by anything other than their multicolored superheroes that henshin into their, you know, whatever this form is, you know, from their you know, unsuited form, civilian form, to their ranger form. But anyway, back to let's get back to these guys, because I was pretty impressed. So if you couldn't find the the Black Lightning Collection guys, you could always fall back on this budget series, the basics. If you couldn't find the basics, you could definitely find him for under 50, because I got him for 20 something bucks. And I've seen for years he stayed there because, you know, he's a red, he's boring, blah, blah, as if you don't need a red to finish your team. But anyway, this guy is okay, like I said. He's not going to win any awards. He's not breaking new ground. But the fact that him and his whole team were available day one when the TV show dropped, it's dope. Because if you were a fan of Go Busters and you couldn't find the other two, which that was my plan. You could get the other two in the basics, and then you have the whole crew, but red will be the most agile, you know, the most articulated. So this guy was good for the time when I first picked him up. I was impressed. I'm glad I picked him up, but he's being donated to the Little Inn because he literally was kind of created for that purpose, you know? Just look at how he has, like, I'll get up on him so you can see all that stuff. Just look at how he has details on him, but they're not painted. Like this should be the Go Busters insignia because, I mean, look at the figure arts, just so you get an idea. See that? Even on the helmet, for the most part, things are painted. The colors are pretty close. But then, of course, like I showed you earlier with the morpher, look at how the morphers are different. One's much bigger but has less detail. It actually has a little bit of blue on there, so I'm kind of impressed with them. But it's not like the figure arts one. It's kind of crazy. No zipper detail, you know. Belts are right. Doesn't look bad. Boots look about the same. So, you know, they didn't do a bad job. This is pretty legit, you know. But it's the Lightning collection is where they really went off and did things right. Now, what I wanted to show you guys, because in my video, which I am re-uploading my the Off Our Brains, because like an idiot, I think I got too excited about finishing my editing. During the editing process, I turned off a layer, so the sound was off, so that I could hear the other layer. You know what I mean? And get an idea of, you know, how that audio sounds. But I like a doofus, I didn't turn it back on before I, you know, I put it up on Facebook. I mean, on YouTube. So when I uploaded it, there's like an hour or more of silence, you know, which is probably why there was only like 40 views, but no one said anything in the comments. So I just deleted it, and I'm about to re-upload it because, yeah, it was stupid of me, and I apologize. I was getting excited, but yeah, honest mistake though. But anyway, this is the point I want to get at. It's an articulation thing. And this is why when I first started collecting the Lightning collection, it amazed me to a point where I was able to point out to you guys that a lot of these guys have articulation that completely like blows away, or I shouldn't say completely blows away, but it's on par in many ways with your import. It bridges the gap between the import figures. Now, in a lot of the Japanese footage, you'll notice that there's a pose that the Red Buster, or in my universe, Jaguar Red, gets into. That it would be, it's like what figure arts' bread and butter always has been. You know what I mean? Like they always had your character set up to do things that you've seen them do on screen. You know what I mean? So like you want to be able to recreate those poses. And if you don't, at least I do. You know, that's why I collect figures, because it's all about recreating some of the things that separate these characters from one another. And the main thing here is like Red Buster does this thing where he puts fist over fist, and he, you know, like he puts his one fist over top of his morpher, and he says like ready, and then he's like go, and I might have a picture. I'll try to find a picture of it and use it in the video and overlay it on top of the footage that I'm showing you right now of him with his hand. It's almost like when you cross your arms in front of your face, but just put your arms lower and have one fist over the other, just like what I have here, but imagine it a little bit better. And that's what your you know, Lightning collection version can do. So I went into buying the figure arts like I want to be able to make him do this, you know, because every other figure arts that I have of like a Super Sentai character can do it. They can do the things that they did in their show. And then here comes, you know, this new figure arts figure, and I try to put him in the pose, and I'm like, he can't do it. Like, what is going on? So then I get this guy, and then he can do it. And I want you to like look at what I'm showing you. It has to do with like butterfly joints, and like, you know, pay attention to the problem here. It's like it's clearance. The clearance issues are there, and it's frustrating because typically they don't have clearance issues. Also, look at the back. Look at the arch, the bend in the torso, I guess I should say. He can get down lower in the you know, Lightning Collection, and he can't get down that low in the figure arts. He's almost as low as he can go right now in that image, which you see right there in front of you. And I'm thinking to myself, what is the problem here? Okay, that just finished. So I'm going to be uploading my Off Our Brains for a second time, this time with all the sound like it's supposed to be. But yeah, all in all, this is one of those situations where somehow the cheaper figure of the two achieves things that the more expensive figure doesn't. Now, in figure arts defense, this figure, I purchased it for $20, not from a seller, but from I think that was the going price. I got it from a Japanese website. I can't remember if it was Hobby Link Japan or something like that, or maybe it was even Amazon. I can't remember. It was so long ago, but yeah, that was the going price for it almost everywhere at the time that I purchased it. So, you know, all the detailing aside, he's lacking in some of his articulation and range of motion. It doesn't make him a shit figure. It just makes him less, than capable in that area. He comes with a ton of a ton of accessories that, of course, the Hasbro figure does not come with. Hasbro figure came with an extra head, the two different blasters, if I remember correctly, and then the more elaborate filled in blade, because like the standard blades that they came with were, how do I put this? They were like hollow instead of being completely filled in, and it just looked, you could tell which one was like the cheaper one and which one was the legit, like, you know, final piece, the finished one. And I think the coloring was slightly off on the basic versions. I'm actually digging for them right now. Yeah. So the basic versions were a little off, whereas the standard one was filled in. So let me show you. Basic. See, it's got that hollow piece in there, which I don't get. And then this is the one that came with this version. So you see, it's filled in here. It's a complete thing. And then here is the version that came with the figure arts version, and then you really get to see the difference in quality of the two. I mean, look at that. Colors are kind of there, but I mean, there's a difference, you know, big difference. So, especially in sculpted detail, I mean, they got most of the colors there. I'll give them their props. They tried, but they missed a lot. I mean, look at the other side. It's like night and day. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Come on. Now let's try it this way. Yeah, there we go. Zoom in, look at that shit. They didn't even try. So it's kind of weird, you know? Like, same exact weapon, just slightly different. And, one thing I hate about the show is They don't even use their weapons the same way. Look at that little red button that does not exist on the US version. So let me hold them up this way so you can see them. Look at that shit. No button at all. It's just weird, you know, when you compare the two. But you get the essence, you get the idea, you know. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the Devon head. Homeboy is brown under the mask. I like his hair. The sculpt, of course, it's kind of a weird, it's not a very flattering sculpt. Got scratches and stuff in areas. And I didn't put those scratches. I hardly ever use these unmasked heads. So when they're all jacked up like this, it bothers me because I'm like, you know, like you could do something. I mean, look at that. It's lacking in something. I don't know what it is, but it looks like the actor though. I'll give him that much. I like his hair. So we've got a couple different types of hair on these figures, you know, for brown characters. You've got Zach with his 2 different hairstyles, and you've got Jack with his dreadlocks, and then you've got Devon. So, you know, Jaguar Red is pretty dope. I like the figure. You have 3 different versions to choose from. So, like, you know, depending on whatever your wallet can, it's like they're taking a page out of the Bandai school of thought, because you remember I was saying for a long time the Bandai makes the best stuff and they make them at different price points and different scales. You know, you have options, and I like that. So I just wanted to say some things about this. It's a very phenomenal figure. I love the way he is, you know, structured, and he has more range of motion than, say, some of the other guys, like even your SPD Red, who doesn't have any like straps or anything on him. He still has a little bit less range of motion in his arms than, you know, this Beast Morphers Red. So, you know, props to them for that. I was impressed. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but here we are. So, you know, it's a quality figure. And again, like I said, you have a lot of variety. And since, you know, I picked these guys up, of course, you have so many more figures to choose from. They've done all the villains. They've done the, like, armored modes for each of the characters. They've done different versions of Blaze and Roxy. And you also have a Blaze from the Lightning collection, which I just showed you a few minutes ago, and I'll show you it again just in case. I like the design. I liked it enough to pick it up twice, you know. Because like I said, unlike a lot of people, I dug Go Busters. People hated that show. And I know it had some weird things, like let's morphing, you know, a lot of English. And but it was, the combat was nice because they fought with like a Kali kind of fighting style. The militaristic kind of, or tactical kind of approach was pretty awesome. And Blue Buster, Ryuji, is my homeboy. Love this dude, man. He's so cool, and he's the strong one. We call him Gorilla Blue. He just, I don't know, man. Something about the way they did that worked for me and my son. I've found that watching Super Sentai, which for those of you who are like serious, like gatekeeping dorks when it comes to Power Rangers, Super Sentai was made for children. So watching it with my kid makes it a little bit more enjoyable because he's not taking the stuff way too seriously. You know what I mean? He's looking at it for what it is. It's superheroes in spandex doing super heroic shit. And it's kind of cheesy and kind of, you know, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. So I think for a kid who just wants to watch superheroes do superhero shit, it's awesome for him to watch and see all this stuff, you know, happening in live action, because it's not common. At least it wasn't until Marvel started doing it every day. It wasn't common for us to get superhero media in live action. So I mean, you can't really blame him for being impressed with this stuff, you know? And then watching him and seeing how he takes all this in helps me enjoy it more because I'm sitting here introducing this thing to my kid and he's taking it in exactly how it's being presented. He's not imprinting his own ideas onto it. He's literally just taking it for what it is. So that helps make it more fun for me too, because it's nice to see people enjoy something as it was intended. You know what I mean? Because that's not what happens with this media when us dorks, the older dorks, you know, get involved with it. Because I watch a lot of Super Sentai coverage on YouTube, and I'm just like, Jesus, you guys, you need to calm the fuck down. You've missed so many of the points that it's painful. But so let's move into something else. So for years, I have been a big fan of the original Diaclone. I remember seeing and understanding that this is what spawned Transformers. I've dug several of the vehicles and the designs and such, and I have been impressed by like the reboot, and I've wanted to get involved and start collecting some of those figures, but it just never seemed like it was in the cards because those figures are freaking expensive. And when I say expensive, I'm talking like $400 or $500. And the figures themselves are like 5-6 inch figures. They're not even huge, you know? So I decided to take a plunge after talking with my homeboy Dem Guts. You got me again, man. I got into, is it Mech Fans Toys? I think it is. I think it's Mech Fans Toys. They did a line called, actually, let me just look at the box. No, it's MFT, I'm pretty sure is what it said on there. Where are you? Mech Fans Toys, right? Now, you know it's bad when the box doesn't even say, yeah, Mech Fans Toys. It does say it. In one spot, really small. I had to search for it. Mech Fans Toys did a line called Lost Planet. Not to be confused with the actual video game Lost Planet. But the first try, I picked this up. Now, all of the solicitations that I could find, all of the details, all of the, like listings showed this, and then also showed a mech that you could build from this. And I was thinking to myself, oh shit, I'm about to make this awesome blue and red mech in the vein of Xenon from Gridman. Because if you ever picked up those toys, the plastics are similar, you know, the guns are similar, everything's kind of similar. It's just that it doesn't have the little pilots to go in there. And the little pilots are awesome, the Dionauts, because they're small and they fit in there and they have articulation even at this like 2-inch scale. I think they're about 2 inches. They feel like they're smaller than 2 inches, but I'm pretty sure they said 2 inches or 2 centimeters. But you look in there, you see they're sitting down. You can see that there's, let's zoom in a little more. You can see them sitting down in there. You can see there's a hinge right there. Hinges in the elbows. You can see that in the neck, there's a little hinge because it can turn. And like, look at how clean the paint is. Little silver spot, the flesh colored spot. I mean, it's nuts the amount of detail these guys have. I leave them in there because this is essentially a bootleg. So there's things about it that you have to kind of be careful with when it comes to the Dionauts themselves because they're kind of fragile. I've had 2 break on me, but I didn't care because I didn't buy this for the Dionauts. I really don't care about the Dionauts. I got it for these ships. So this was the first one I got, thinking that the whole package was going to contain all the parts to make the mech, this mech that you see in the background. I was wrong. So I just had this, which is dope. I mean, like, look at these guns. These guns don't come in the package. These actually came with the big robot, and I'll get to him in a second. If you look at the torso, you can see this is a torso, right? Arms here, and that's the lower like legs, the upper thigh and the crotch right there. And I thought that this cockpit piece was the chest piece that you see in there. I was wrong. So when I opened this up and I put it together, I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And then I started moving things around, and like, you know, I moved this around. I moved the arms where I wanted the arms to go. I folded the chest, you know, so you see you've got legs and a chest, and I'm like, where the heck are where are the arms at? Or where the you know, the rest of the legs, where's the head? Where's the area that I'm supposed to put that in? So I pulled this out like you're supposed to, because I looked at the parts and then I saw like, oh, something else goes there. And then over here, let me fix that and show you how this works. This is where the legs connect to the upper thigh piece. And I was like, shit, I got, man. I totally missed the information I was supposed to be paying attention to, because the way it's all listed on the box, and I wish I still had that old box for this one. I have the newer box, but I don't have the original box. This is not, you know, it's just not the full-on thing, and I should have known that. You know what I mean? Supposedly, based on their advertising, it was supposed to be obvious. Well, again, this was a chance where it wasn't obvious. And I told them guts, and I told ODC when it happened. I was like, I can't believe this shit. You know, like I just got this thing and it's not even fully transformed. But as you can see, it doesn't come with all the parts to fully make, you know, the mech like I thought I was going to. But as you can see, the fist is in here. So essentially I have parts of a mech right there. So then I was like, okay, screw it. I'll go back and I will order the actual mech. And then, you know, with all the parts. And I found another order that was substantially cheaper than this. And it was the whole thing. The mech included the extra parts. See, that's the extra cockpit that I just pulled off right here. And instead of just connecting these small guns to it, I connected the larger guns and these shoulder cannons. And then over here, you have what I just turned into this shell. And I turned that into something else entirely too. So now I have two sets of ships to go with, you know, with what I've already purchased. Now, keep in mind, like I've said before, breaking the bank is not my favorite thing. You know, you got a family to provide for. I'm not spending, you know, insane amounts of money simply because there's like a fancy Nancy name on my figure. You know what I mean? Fuck that shit. Like, there's so many ways around it. You see a lot of like elitist, I don't know how else to describe it, except they're more fortunate than some of us others, collectors, you know, with disposable income. They may even be wealthy, telling you that you should never buy the bootleg. Well, I beg to differ. As long as the official figures are going to have outrageous prices that don't make sense, you should always go for the bootleg. And you definitely should when it comes to like these third-party offerings, especially when the quality is there. I mean, like, all they did with this line is take the die cast out of these figures. So there's no die cast. Everything on them is 100% plastic. The only metal is in the pegs in the joints. And it works. I have no issues with that. And I was a little bit surprised that it was so well done and that it was so like not problematic. The transformations are the same. The connection points are the same. Everything's the same. You even still have the motorized final piece when you transform him and you release the head, which I'll show you in a second. It's one of those things where I was just like, wow, okay. I was really surprised. I was like, oh shit, you can actually like pop the head up out of this thing? Look. See that? The chest has a motor, goes in, the head pops up too. And this is exactly the same thing that happens on the official one. And then there's tons of light piping. Look at that. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It's nice and intense. It works. I love it. Simple things, you know. I don't need a lot of gimmicks. I didn't need that freaking whatchamacallit, that the little gimmick with the chest and the head popping up. But I enjoy it, you know, nevertheless. It's dope. He's pretty big. He's not as big as the Megazord I just bought, and he costs about twice as much. At least this one did. He cost twice as much as the Megazord did. But I'll put them side by side so you can see. They're still kind of on the expensive side, just not as expensive as the actual, I mean, look at that. And I don't understand why more of the mechas can't be like this size, you know, and then cost, I think altogether I spent $50 getting the 2 packs that you had to get this, to get everything. I think it was 2 packs, right? The Tyrannosaurus was by itself, or maybe it was 3 packs. Yeah, it was 3. But altogether it was about $50, which is about what many of the deluxes cost back in the day, because I still have my Lightspeed Megazord. I have the what are they called? Stratoforce and Centaurus Megazords, and I still have Gingaio, or the Galaxy Megazord, and I still have my Lightspeed Megazord and the Taurozord, the Defender Taurozord, and all of those were, I think actually, Stratoforce and Centaurus were like 25, almost 30 a piece. And then Gingaio, or the Galaxy Megazord, he was close to 50 or 40, something like that, because he's big, he's huge. But anyway, the point is, for the money that you spend for this guy, you do get a lot. And there's a lot of formations that you can, you know, create. Think of them like a puzzle. So it's the same concept that you've always had with Transformers, where you have like, you know, a vehicle, a robot, and then a puzzle when it comes to how you put all this stuff together. And I enjoy it, man. It's fun figuring out new ways to like work this, you know? So like, yeah, this is another thing that I was pretty geeked about, and I'm happy to have them, and I'm impressed with how they work. So, you know, definitely worth a look if you're looking for something slightly new. If you like mechs, if you like you know, Gundam, if you like Transformers, or if you want something that's kind of like Transformers but very different in its approach, because where Transformers would use a lot of like folding methods, this uses a lot of like sliding and locking mechanisms and like interlocking mechanisms, like in the legs and like the arms themselves. There's like areas like joint releases, you know, like, let me put this down so you can see what I'm talking about. So like, you slide these arms into, you can kind of see there's a track right there, right? Turn it this way so you can see all the lights. There you go. You see that? It's a track. So the arm slides in and rides that track into the front. But say you want to release it from the front, right? You pull it out like this and then push it up. Watch. See? And now I can release it through the front. So you see what I'm saying? Like, there's all these cool little simple ways that they found to engineer how the joints work and how they lock. And you see, I just put it right back in and it locked perfectly. These guns can move up out of the way. And there's ratchet joints. Love the ratchets. And a lot of detents too. So it's not like, you know, with a lot of Transformers where they'd have like one click here and then one click here, and then you couldn't just get it in the middle. Here you've got clicks the whole way through. Now, I did have to do some work on part of him because one of the legs was stuck, but it was very simple. I mean, you can see where the screws are and then you just kind of you loosen up the screw to allow for the ratchets to work better and for things to snap into place, and it worked. It was fun. I was happy to do it. You know, you shouldn't have to, but then again, this is a bootleg. That's the level of, you know, of work that you're going to have to do. But I mean, all things considered, look at the paint on Homeboy's face. You know, like, we talk about like official figures and Hasbro figures not really being up to snuff. Look at the paint on Homeboy's face. Nothing is out of place. If I didn't tell you that this was a bootleg, you wouldn't know. And I've seen reviews where people reviewed the so-called Diaclones, and they were actually reviewing these bootlegs. So it's definitely... Wow. Sorry about that. It's definitely one of those things where I am impressed with the level of detail. This is almost as good as the Kubian Bao Optimus that I got, the MP10V, the Voyager-sized Masterpiece Optimus. And I'm very impressed with this guy. He's just like, whew. It's another one of those figures where every time I see him, I have to pick him up and play with him. You know, and that's how you know you got a winner on your hands, because you want to play with them. So props to them for this, and I'm glad to have picked him up, and, you know, let's move along. All right, so let's talk real quickly about Figuarts Bison and Vega, or Vega and Balrog if you're in Japan, and you know your history and all that good stuff. So I picked both of them up for some sale prices. I was actually surprised to catch them both on sale. I think I got Bison on a flash sale from Tamashii Nations, or no, Bluefin. Bluefin. I actually got him a couple weeks ago. And then I got Vega last month, sometime, I want to say before Thanksgiving. I could be wrong. Maybe it was right after Thanksgiving. I ordered him before Thanksgiving, though. But it was sometime last month. And he just, it's just perfect. Like, it's funny because, like, I've watched footage where people dissed the soda figures, and I'm still looking at this Balrog, and I'm like, I don't see what you could possibly diss on this figure other than it's old. And it reinforced the concept of a lot of people not being able to appreciate figures that aren't the new hotness, quote unquote. You know what I mean? They act like because it's new, it just automatically makes it better. Like, look at how big Sagat is compared to everyone else. You know, like, look at that. Meanwhile, Figuarts just made a Sagat, a new Sagat, and he's like horribly underscaled. You know, like, they've made him a lot smaller just so that he fits in line with what they consider the Figuarts thing. And it's like, no. And then you have Storm, awesome sculpt. It looks like Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. It's just he's way too big. I mean, he's like he's 2 times, maybe 3 times this size. He's his own scale, you know? It's kind of like when you compare John Wick from Select to like every other toy line. Like, why is John Wick almost 7 feet tall? You know what I mean? Like, an action figure scale, he's almost the same exact height as Sagat. Like, that shouldn't be. I get it. John Wick is a big character, but, you know, he shouldn't be that scale. I got him because he's a standalone figure, kind of like I did with the the Select Wolverine figure, the Hugh Jackman from that movie. So yeah, I'm impressed, and I love these figures, and I love what Jerry Macaluso was able to do with the soda figures and what Figuarts was able to do, because make no mistake, like this cape, I just threw some material on him because I wanted to see if it would drape the way I want it to, you know, and if it could fit underneath the armor, and it does, the shoulder armor. I knew I was going to knock somebody down. I'm too big for this shit sometimes. But I'm gonna try to edit that out. I'm just gonna remind myself, edit that shit out. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that cloth would fit on there. But then looking at him from head to toe, I'm just like, wow, that's Bison. That's Bison. And he's every bit as he looks better in person than the preview images looked. I'm like completely impressed. And then there's this. Look at that. Just look at that. Look at how thorough that is. And remember, a year or two ago, I did the review of the Storm Collectible Street Fighter V Bison. Now, that one was 100% on model with the Street Fighter V design, but it was still lacking in like articulation and engineering because it had this gimmick. And I mentioned how Figuarts did the same gimmick with their Dragon Ball Z Piccolo figure, and I think they did it with a specific Vegeta figure, and we've seen it done several times since then with other characters, because a lot of Dragon Ball figures or a lot of Dragon Ball characters like to fold their arms. And here we are. They did it again. No issues with his arms. There's a nice satisfying snap when you push the pop the arms in, so it's secure, and the joints themselves are long, and it doesn't come off at the base of the shoulder. Instead, it comes off on the peg that goes into the anatomically correct bicep swivel in the arm. You know what I mean? Like, so in the shoulder is the hole, the peg sits in the body, and the actual joints themselves are large. Now, I'm not going to go into detail with that here because I'm going to be doing some Street Fighter coverage in the coming year at the request of Zorpox the Destroyer, because he had a good point. I did coverage of almost the whole Soda line back in the day when I first started my channel, and those videos, I did them with like my first camera actually, and my first digital camera, and that was back when YouTube was skimping on the quality, and because my camera wasn't like super high end, I couldn't really get the clarity that you're seeing right now. So I'm gonna go back over those figures. It's gonna be a sit down style, real chill video where we just take a look at the figures, and I'll go into detail and show you the joints behind these shoulders. But as you can see, the thoroughness is there. This looks like the Bison that we all saw in the Street Fighter animated movie. Now, the only things that are missing are, and you'll hear this in the Off Our Brains that just was put up just a little bit ago, belt, plain, almost like an animation model, and then there's no Shadowloo symbol on him. He doesn't have a Shadowloo symbol anywhere on his person, which is weird. So it's almost like the Street Fighter 2 design on the body of the animated film that and the different aesthetics match the Ideon, and actually it's not Ideon, I'm sorry, the Bengis and Akiman artwork. So I don't know. There's a lot of things here that I like because I love those guys. If you reference Bengis and you do it well, I'm in your corner. You know what I mean? Because Bengis changed my life when it comes to just art in general and just understanding anatomy. So my appreciation for the difference in body type amongst these four and just characters in general, it's like magnified tenfold here. So I love it. I don't have, even with his shortcomings missing those two details and no cape, he didn't come with a cape, I can make the cape. I have no issues with that. There's plenty of sellers out there to do capes. I don't have any issues with that. I do wish that they made him come with the cape. It just feels complete. And when you think about the fact that 14 years ago, Jerry Macaluso sculpted this with his bare fucking hands, and he included the cape, and the figure it's bigger, it's bulkier, heavier, and it costs what is that? That I paid 60 for him, and that cost less than 20. It's almost criminal that that's what, you know, that figure went for. And just look at him. So, you know, this is my Street Fighter 2, you know, after alpha years. This is the alpha years when he was like overflowing with psycho power. So I love it. It fits perfectly for me. He's still in scale. You can see the two are about the same size, but I mean, look at the details. See the belt? See the Shadowloo symbol on his hat? Simple details that I don't know why they neglected, you know, it bugs me. I think about it every time I look at this figure and I'm just like, why did you not do that? Look at the belt and then look at the top of the hat. Strange. But dope figures. I'm going to do a lot more coverage of Vega himself because Vega's really well done too. I was playing around recreating the fight scene from the Street Fighter 2 movie between him and Chun-Li. And like, you could just do all the things with him. He's just so easy to move around and manipulate and pose and all that good stuff. And I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. You shouldn't be stressing when it comes time for you to pose your figures and do stuff with them. So impressive, 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 sublime, you know? It's just, you got to give them props. They're so well done. So, yeah, let's move along. All right, let's talk about Super Shredder. I managed to pick up Super Shredder. I got lucky. I found him on eBay for about 50 bucks, 54 bucks, something like that. And I didn't think I was going to get him. I've written him off. I essentially was just like, fuck it. I'm not going to find any of the Ninja Turtle NECA stuff outside of what I've already managed to get, simply because it's just gotten nuts. You notice a theme in all these reviews. This year, the prices for most figures have just gotten insane. I mean, like, Ninja Turtle products were typically hard to come by, especially the NECA stuff based on the prices and such. But this year it got ridiculous. I mean, everything is like that right now. And so I just was like, fuck it, I'm not going to be able to get it. And what it surprised me is that I was able to find him for less than, you know, the 70, 80 to 100 plus that he goes for. And he got here really quickly. I mean, the box was in shitty condition, but, or the package that it came in, the actual contents of the package were, you know, safe. But I was rather impressed. I mean, you can already tell just by looking at him that he is a monster of a figure, right? And if you can't, I'm going to keep using John Wick as an example because John Wick is pretty tall because it's a Marvel Select figure. But I'm going to stand Shredder up and like straight, you know, straighten his legs out and just have him stand up next to one of these other figures so you can just see the difference in height because he is a monster for real. He should be, you know, he's Super Shredder. He's not standard Shredder, you know, so he's supposed to be freaking huge. But this is him standing up straight, and I might pick my camera up a little bit so that you can see the difference. And here's 7-inch John Wick. Let's move him over a little bit more. And then in the middle, I will put like let's put Cable, because I'm going to talk about Cable in a little bit too. Put Cable right there. Look at the difference in height. It's fucking nuts. We look at that. So it's pretty dope. I was like, shit. He's huge. And they gave him to us for the 50 bucks. And he doesn't have that usual kind of chintzy feeling construction that we usually get from NECA. He feels a lot more sturdy, a lot sturdier, and a lot more robust. Like, you know, like he's not going to break. You know, he's not going to fall apart on you. If you apply pressure to his joints, it doesn't feel like, you know, he's going to fall apart or something. You know, he feels actually pretty tough. Forgive me for all the shaking. I'm just raising up my stand so that you can see more of Mr. Super Shredder. But yeah, I'm impressed. Very good looking figure, and this cape is just phenomenal. I mean, it's better than the cape that he came with, that the standard Shredder came with. It's fancy. It's like what I wanted to come with Bison, you know? Give him a freaking cape. But it's not what happens. Instead, they always give him something kind of cheap. I'm going to stand him up next to regular Shredder so you can see that. It's crazy. It looks like Bring Your Child to Work Day, right? Those are the same dude. It's crazy. They really, really pull that shit off. And just for more reference, we got a turtle in the mix. So you can see, look at the difference. It's phenomenal, you know. For all the gripes I have with NECA, all the issues I have with them, I mean, you got to admit, they're doing some great stuff. I'm glad that the overall, we'll even do further comparisons so you can see, just in case you're more of an arcade game fan and you plan on doing like a Turtles in Time kind of setup and you want to use Super Shredder or Hyperstone Heist for those of you Genesis kids who didn't have that, look at the difference. Look at that. And this isn't like a distance thing. Just look at the height. I love it. I love it. So yeah, my inner 11-year-old is very happy right now, or 9-year-old or 10-year-old, that area, because that was the era of Ninja Turtles for me. I was like, I want to say it was between the age of 9 to like 12 or 13 was the height of my Ninja Turtle like love, you know. And it got better as I got older because you had more variety. So I know many of us fans had that, but yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I don't think I'm going to do another review, but maybe I will. But I like these sit down style videos because I get to just talk about stuff, you know what I mean? And just, you know, kind of not stress about perfect composition and things like that, you know? I get to just show you the figure and talk about the things that it does right, and, you know, not get too into it. It's a showcase. Something that a lot of collectors need to learn the difference between, because that's something you see very often on YouTube, but they have it under the guise of a review. So you're thinking that you're getting a full-on review, when in reality they're just saying this thing exists and I like this thing. And they're not trying to show you anything that could potentially be wrong with it, and that's just lame. So, yeah, Super Shredder, quality figure. Don't buy them if you're paying over 50 or 60 bucks. The MSRP is $50. If you can find them for that, it's worth it. If you're paying over that, you don't get that much with them. You just get a bunch of hands and the famed TGRI canister, and that's it. Oh, and his spear. It's a very cool looking spear, but that's it. You know, that's not for any of this shit. The prices that they're going for in the secondary are just not worth it. So, you know, steer clear of it if you can. If you're seeing it for the crazy prices, just forget about it. You know, wait a couple years until China starts bootlegging it, and then when they bootleg it, it'll be worth it. You know what I'm saying? For now, though, look for him at the $50, $50 MSRP, and, you know, go from there. And I wanted to add something because I recognize that NECA also did Krang, right? And the Krang that they did it's an awesome figure. He's huge. He's got articulation and everything, but he also is going for stupid prices, and he literally just dropped. And I haven't seen him anywhere, and I have a feeling all the scalpers, because they're always like 1 or 2 to a store, all the scalpers are, you know, instantly using their hookups to pick those up before any of us can get them. If you can't find him, look for the old one. The old one is huge, as you can see. He's made of like heavy vinyl, you know, like a more of a, not PVC, but like or maybe it is PVC. It's like PVC vinyl combination, because the chest is hard, but the arms and the legs and the head are a little bit on the softer side. They're not super pliable, but they're like, if you were to bend them, if you heat them, he'll move properly. The fuck was that? There's people outside making crazy noises. What the fuck? Guess those kids outside making noise, which I'm like, wow, crazy. It's cold as shit outside. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, keep your ass inside so you can stay warm. You see my reflection in there moving around? It looks kind of cool, right? Looking in Krang's belly. Anyway, yeah, stay your ass inside. Play with these guys. Get this if you can't find the NECA. This is actually mine. I want to say, no, I got this secondhand because a lot of my old stuff got left at my mom's house when I moved out, and somehow I think they moved and just couldn't keep track of things, and I can't remember, or it was lost in the drama. There was a purge. We had some drama, and I was just like, fuck it, and I left a ton of things behind, and my original one got left behind. So I found him on eBay, and I remember getting him for pretty cheap. I'm sure with all the drama surrounding NECA drumming all this stuff back up, you know, or I shouldn't even say drama, because it's not really drama. The drama part is them charging what they're charging. But, or I'm sorry, the drama part is secondary sellers charging what they're charging. But, you know, if you can't find them, look for these. At the very least, you may find one that's more affordable. And, you know, the only thing you would have to do is either stuff the Krang that you already have in there, or use the Krang from the NECA set and push him in there. I'm pretty sure he would fit. But yeah, it's an option, you know, because you're still getting the essence of the character. There's a little bit more detail. As you can see, I'm missing stickers, and I'm going to put the stickers on there. I have other stickers that look better that I'm gonna put in there and finish him. So he's a work in progress. Like the little tuning fork thing on the top of his head is broken on mine. That's how I got him. I'm gonna replace it. I have a cooler one that I made that I can, you know, stick up there. See, well, I didn't make it. I took it from something else. But I mean, you see, it's the cool thing about collecting and working on models. You get parts that you can use from other things for this stuff. But yes, these are things you got to keep in mind because, you know, this is a lifelong thing. And, you know, we have collections that are in different levels of completion that we need to complete. And, you know, some of them are worth it and some of them are going to take a little bit more work than others. So yeah, keep that in mind. Classic Playmates, NECA. I'm almost done with my Ninja Turtle stuff. I just need April. Any April that's wearing regular clothing. If you guys ever come across the 2-pack with April and a foot soldier, please, please, please pick one up for me. I will send you the money right away. I'm not seeing any of this shit in my area. I keep having to, like, I got lucky with Casey and his set, but I'm not finding any of this other stuff anywhere. So, you know, if you guys see that, and I'm talking about like the cartoon Casey. I want the movie Casey, but that ship has sailed. I can't find him anywhere. And I'm not paying the stupid prices that they want online for that figure. And no amount of justification from, you know, the usual suspects is going to make it more palatable to spend that amount on a figure that was released this year that goes now for like 4 times what it came out at. There's just no way. So, you know, if anybody sees them, help a ninja out, let me know. And yeah, I will send you the money and we will go from there. But yeah, this is an option. And yeah, I was lucky to come across this. You guys should always give eBay some time, you know, jump on eBay, give it some time, check. And then you'll come across most things, you know, at a decent price, you know, at some point. Sometimes you don't, but a lot of things you do. And this is, you know, Super Shredder was one of them. All right, now let's talk about these guys here. The Overwatch line from Hasbro. Seems like I got a lot of Hasbro to talk about, but I mean, if we're being fair, they practically have a monopoly on the toy game because they have all the IPs just about that, you know, any dude that grew up in the 80s or 90s, you know, plays a little bit of video games, you know, has interests in certain things. They pretty much have all those IPs. I mean, they got Star Wars, you know, they got Marvel, They've got, Power Rangers, right there. That's a huge bunch. Transformers, so like a lot of the things I grew up on, G.I. Joe, it's all with them. And then Overwatch was promising, but they fucked it up. Now, I still think that this line had potential, and with some tweaks here and there, they could have, salvaged things. Now, I have almost the whole line. I just didn't like Junkrat, and I don't like Diva because she didn't come with her mech. I don't want some, cutesy chick without the mech if that's what she is. She's a mech pilot. I want the mech. I want her in the mech. She could have been bigger than or as big as Reinhardt over here, and that would have been dope. But what I like about these figures is, with very few exceptions, they're actually no, there aren't even exceptions. These figures represent something Hasbro almost never does, unless we're talking about the Black Series or most of the MCU figures, and that's unique sculpts. Every single figure you see here is a unique sculpt. Now, the engineering needed a lot of help because that's the biggest problem. Before getting them in this position that you're looking at right now, I was struggling to get them to stand up. Certain characters, Soldier 76, Reaper is actually, his feet are pretty good. Farah, it's a pain in the ass to get them to do what you want them to do, because even though they have the points of articulation, the engineering of how those points work is just complete and utter garbage, Even McCree. I tried to do or I started doing the mods to his ankles, but I was afraid I was going to go too far. So I just opted to leave it how it is. And, standing him up is a pain in the ass, because he's got those really exaggerated heels for his cowboy boots, and they don't add to a very balanced figure, like a balanced stance on your figure. And, I've made that argument where I've told you before that companies need to engineer their fucking figures. That's first and foremost. Now, the best examples of what this line brings to bear are the bigger characters. Freaking Reinhardt and Zarya. Zarya is my favorite of this whole line. She's amazing, and then Genji comes next, because everything I want to do with Genji is it's possible. You see him in a cool pose, looking all thorough and shit, like Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, and there's not much that has to be done. I mean, look at that. That's very ninja, And no, he didn't lose his arm. I just have his arm behind his back, as you can see over there, holding onto the sheath of his smaller sword. But yeah, there's a lot of good in here. But Zarya, she's the one who I'm going to focus on today when we talking about these figures, because man, I didn't know this was. I mean, I had an idea. They have the same feeling that Capcom's old designs used to have. You have the body types, the colors, it's just so many variations. It's like they did their character design research. This is a master class in character design. It's just the figures don't all hold up as well as they could. Now, if you're just buying them to wear them out and play with them, then you can do that with these guys. They're not as bad as like the Legacy Collection Power Rangers, these guys. With the weird, or look at the anatomy. It's just so weird. They don't have that problem. They have very sound anatomy, and they have very good joints, and they can hold the poses you want them to hold. And I like that. They look good that way. And in some cases, they hold the joints are too stiff. They're too clicky or too ratcheted, and it's just like, whew, it's a pain. But Zarya here, I was super impressed with her. I mean, she poses like a dream. She's got double jointed elbows, which is something you almost never see. And I think most of these guys don't have double jointed elbows. There's a handful of them that do. I know 76 does. Reaper does. And who else? I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Because even Genji doesn't. Oh, no, Genji. That's the other guy who does. His brother has one double jointed elbow, and then the rest are, the other one is single jointed. But you hear that click? That's me trying to get her legs to straighten out. That sounds bad, but that's the it's her legs straightening out. Her feet are perfectly sized, and they have that nice sole, so that you can actually move her feet so that she stands up the way that you want her to stand up. And her legs are big, so it works. She's got big legs and karate. I can do the splits, no problem. Anyway, she's like perfect, man. She's perfect. And like, she's probably the biggest female character that I think I've ever had. I keep using John Wick as an example. I'm going to put her standing next to Peter Parker so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at this. She dwarfs Pete. Her arms are bigger than his. I mean, just everything. Her legs are much bigger than his. I mean, look at that. It's like She-Hulk status. I love it. I love it. And then her face, it's such a gentle face, and I love it because that's such a, it's a character design detail that they went for to make her, her face kind of, what's the word? It contradicts the stature, But look at that. Even the subtle musculature on her biceps. You see the triceps right there, and then the bicep, and then even in her shoulders and stuff. It's like somebody did their research. They actually looked at the game and said, what can we do? What are things we can do to imitate the game in toy form and not screw this up? And she's probably one of the best examples of how they did that, Based on her alone, anybody should be able to see that there's potential with this line. But, I'm speaking as a reviewer. I know there's bottom lines to hit and such. I mean, the 512 on her shoulder looks good. I mean, the colors look good. They're vibrant. I mean, this is some well done shit right here. And I'm surprised that, this didn't carry on. I wonder if they had done another season and we got Winston, who is my absolute favorite character in all of Overwatch. I would have been happy with him, He turns red, so you could have had the extra head for him. He's my favorite good guy, and then Doomfist is my favorite villain. We didn't get them. We only got one villain. That's, what's her name? Sombra, which, she looks okay, but that jacket was not thought out well. They could have sculpted everything up top and then given her like a vinyl lower portion of the jacket, because in the game, the jacket is more form-fitting up top, but they chose not to, Stupid things they did, like they never released like the evil version of Reaper. Why didn't you do a 2-pack with him good and bad, since he's the one character on the team that's good and bad? Or do that for all the characters who had 2 looks, Like, why didn't they do 76 before, when he was part of Overwatch, and then the 76 they gave us, Same thing with Anna. Give us Anna unmasked during Overwatch and then after Overwatch. Instead, they didn't do that. So there were little things they could have done that would have made the line better. I mean, there's plenty of characters that they could have continued with. I kind of hope that they do go back and revisit these characters down the line, because the line is just, it's a beautiful line just looking at them on a shelf. It's when you actually sit down and try to do stuff with them that you run into all the issues. Because, like I said, outside of Zarya and Genji and Zarya are pretty much perfect. They're like really good versions, really good representations, really good figures, There's a lot of fun to be had with these figures, but freaking many of the other guys, not so much. They're just not well done, which hurts my heart because the designs are so well represented. It's just that the engineering is so lacking that it's like, fuck these figures, man. I can't play with them the way I want to. I can't pose them the way I want to in many cases, Genji, like, I mean, look at the bend in his crotch. You never get that where they cut all the way up in there so that you can move his leg all the way up like that so you get an actual like crouch. Because you ever notice when you crouch like Marvel Legends, typically the crouch always looks kind of artificial. The knee doesn't reach in the right place. Like, this looks perfect. This looks like they looked at one of those dummies or those skeletons and the pose skeletons that we use in school, and they actually like paid attention, you know, and looked at the details and said, hey, we can do it like this, we can do this, we can get this. And they measured like the thigh to the knee, and then like even the shape of the knee is correct. A lot of times what you get is a flat surface, you know what I mean, between the thigh and the shin. You get a flat surface and then you bend it, kind of like, I'll use John Wick as an example. See that? But your knee doesn't work like that. Your knee comes out to a point. They got it on Genji, both on his knees and his elbows. So, you know, props to them for that. I mean, the result is the same. John Wick is really posable. I'm not dissing him, but the aesthetics are missing. These are the things that sometimes Anthony's Customs would go off on, and he would give you the anatomy lesson and then explain how the joint works and things like that. And I appreciate that. But then he gets a little bit carried away. I shouldn't even say a little bit. He gets real carried away in like aesthetics that don't apply to the characters that we're looking at, you know? So, especially in the cases that he's choosing to talk about. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about these guys because I am so like, I'm impressed to see these guys in 3 dimensions, like on my shelf. But then when I compare them to other figures, you know, I talk about Street Fighter and I talk about like little things that Jerry Macaluso was able to do back in the day, sculpting by hand. And he still was able to achieve the whole, you know, the Street Fighter aesthetic without sacrificing anything really. You know, you still had the what am I saying? You still had the articulation, and then you also had the sculpt, you know? And he didn't sacrifice shit to get that. You still had sculpt, you still had articulation, you still had colors all over the place, and the characters looked amazing. I mean, you tell me that looks whack. That looks like a cross between Street Fighter 3 Ken and Street Fighter Alpha 3 Ken, where they were trying to make him look a little bit more grown. He didn't have the long ponytail anymore. Instead, he had the, you know, the He-Man mullet, the modern He-Man mullet, and it looked good. So, you know, the problem I have with mine is I played with them so hard. God, I played with them so much. So, like, their joints are so, like, slack that, like, in some cases, trying to pose them up is a nightmare. But, I mean, the colors are vibrant. The anatomy is there. I mean, look at his feet. Those big-ass Street Fighter feet. My wife calls them Flintstone feet, you know? Because a lot of us have those. Especially if you've been in martial arts for a long time. Your feet get kind of, I want to say swollen, but they get kind of blocky and hard. And he's got them. So, you know, it's like the same. It almost looks like this could be in that universe because you can tell that they took their cues from Capcom's design aesthetics. But, or at least in the 90s, you know, like Bengus and them. But yeah, Overwatch, man, the line is it's a beautiful line. Freaking Reinhardt. I was super impressed with Reinhardt because I didn't know how big, like some of the reviews, they compared him to like big Marvel Legends. They didn't compare him to like the rest of the Overwatch cast, but like having him in my own hands, you know, on my shelf with my Overwatch figures, and then seeing him stand next to like Zarya, and he takes up so much real estate, and then you see Zarya next to him, and it's just like, whew, he dwarfs her. Like he absolutely, look at that. I want more of this. And he was a $50 figure, which it makes sense. Look how much plastic that is. That I can understand. That's where my brain can put the two together and say, oh, I understand what it is I'm paying for because I can see it. And I was impressed. That's why I even stuck along or hung out along with this line long enough to get him for a good, decent price, because I was impressed with the designs a long time ago. I've been following Overwatch's development for years now, you know, and I love what I've seen, but I wanted the figures. And I know that, and I could be wrong, but I have a feeling Figma's not going to do him. I'm going to get, what's his face? The Figma version of McCree, because it'll be better as far as articulation and everything goes. And it'll be more fun for me because I'll be able to play with him easily, you know, more easily. This one will stay on the shelf. I'll probably play with that other one more, or maybe I'll just pose the other one and leave him on the shelf and play with this one more. But I have a feeling the big guys aren't going to get the treatment from Figuarts, or from Figma, I'm sorry. Figma doesn't typically make giant figures. They don't. They always do little waifu type characters and, you know, regular sized dudes. They don't really go for the giant dudes, you know? So I was like, this is a must get. I wish they would do the big figures, because I know if they did it, they'd do it right. You know, they'd put all the details that need to be there. They would put all the paint where it needs to be. Not that they didn't do it. Hasbro did the damn thing here. He's mostly painted up exactly like what we saw in the game. It's just that they generalized by having just the yellows and some of the red that you see over here, you know. They left out the fur pieces. They left out a lot of little things that, you know, were flourishes that show up in the game. But I mean, everything else looks good. I mean, look at the hammer. That hammer looks amazing. Thruster looks good on it. Look at that shit. They even put paint in there, or decos in there. It was a little sloppy in places, but it looks good, you know. Strike face looks great. It's just good. It's just really good stuff, man, and it's unique looking, and that's what, you know, for me, that's what I'm after. I want unique looking figures, you know. So yeah, I'm happy to have these guys. I mean, they are a pain in the ass to pose and stuff. Getting them up on this shelf, I hope you guys appreciate it, because getting them up on this shelf was a pain, or on my desk, and posing them was a pain in my ass. But I love the way they look, and I wanted to talk about them, especially Reinhardt and Zarya, because it was such a and Genji, but you already knew I dig Genji, but Reinhardt and Zarya, big figures with a lot of detail, and they still have their articulation. That is impressive. And then, oh, before I even finish, let's talk about his freaking shield. Let's talk about this damn shield. I was like, are you serious? He actually still came with the shield? Look at this. It's like a freaking Rubbermaid container cover. And look at the freaking hexagonal, you know, connection points or hexagonal pattern on the shield itself. So look at that shit. And it came with stands, like, so that you can put it on your, you know, put it in front of your characters and have them hide behind the shield. But I mean, it's pretty damn dope. There's a little peg on here, so if you wanted it to stick to his arm, you could have it stick to his arm right up there where that peg is. But just look at this. This is Hasbro doing what we would expect for a $50 figure. You know what I mean? This is Hasbro giving you more than what you normally get from them. And I was thoroughly impressed. To open it up and see this in there, I was like, what the fuck is this? Then I was like, oh, the shield. I'm telling you, man, they were doing some amazing stuff. Almost out of character stuff, because they're stingy as fuck. So I wasn't expecting much. But, you know, Hasbro, if you're listening, I'm one of those guys out there who would like to see this line continue. Only, though, if you would take the time to re-engineer the stuff that didn't work. And I have a feeling that part of why they canceled the line is because they don't plan on re-engineering anything. You know, they're always talking about cutting costs, you know. You make billions of dollars, but you're always talking about cost. You know, you make money hand over fist, but you're always trying to save money. you know, and you're always trying to save money in the areas that you guys are deficient in. You need to spend the money in those areas, becomes like hyper efficient in those areas too, and then you could raise prices and people would say it makes sense. You know, people like me who understand the process, understand the engineering, have been collecting for almost 30 years. We understand this. And I have been actually collecting, not just buying shit, but actually collecting and partaking in all these figures that I collect. You know, this is one of the things that frustrates me when I listen to reviews on YouTube. There's a lot of collectors, you know, essentially a lot of hoarders that they have all the shit, they've bought all the shit, but they've never actually done anything with it. So they don't get it. They bought it for the review so they could have it first, and they don't get what it's supposed to do. They've showcased that figure to all of us, and then they let it go. They were done. They just put it on a shelf somewhere, and they never look back at it. I actually sit down and I play with some of these figures until they break sometimes, you know? Like, I'll play with them for years. There's certain figures, like my Street Fighter figures. Like I showed you Ken. I need to get the Figuarts Ken because my Ken is floppy as fuck because, I mean, he's not super floppy. I mean, you see his legs hold. But I've played with him a lot. So standing him up, like his feet are super like loose down there at the ankle because I'm constantly making him kick things, you know, and that's a constant pose for me with him. And yeah, I use my toys, you know. If you look at his the joints on his fists, right? See that joint where his fist connects to his wrist? It's rusting, right? Look at the joint here. It was brown. Come on. It was brown, but I used it so much that the paint, it like chipped off, you know, like just from constantly turning him and turning him and turning it, you know, moving the wrist. It just wore off, you know. It's an old figure, and the process is old that they use to paint these figures. So it's a little different from the way they painted these new figures, where a lot of the figure is cast in the plastic color, the correct plastic color, and then they just paint on details that they need. He was cast in red for most of his body, but then flesh tone for everything else, and then they painted stuff to make things work. And you know, that's not necessarily the best way to do it, but at the time that was the standard. Toy Biz did it, you know, Hasbro was doing it with some of the Joes, you know, Playmates was doing it. Everybody was doing that. So, you know, even the import companies, so they were going for that approach. So yeah, I played with my shit, you know, and I let people know what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, there's a lot of pieces that, you know, were problematic, but, you know, I'm telling you from experience, you know, so if Hasbro's listening, please go back and re-engineer these guys, you know, fix Tracer's guns and her hands, make them out of slightly harder plastic so that we can push the guns in and she actually holds on to them, or give her more of a grip. You know what I mean? If her grip is a little bit closed and we move the thumb to put the gun in there and then it closes back and she holds on properly, we won't have problems, because believe you me, this toy, when she falls forward, she drops her guns. It's frustrating, you know? But then you look at Genji, of course, the ninja holds his weapon perfectly because everybody loves the ninja, you know? There's a number of them that hold their weapons perfectly, but, you know, go back, re-engineer these guys, give them double jointed elbows on all the figures because they all need it, especially like an archer. He needs double jointed elbows. You know, your sniper needs double jointed elbows so she can properly hold her gun. I mean, she does an okay job, but she needs it to be perfect. And, you know, it's just little things, tiny little things. But yeah, Overwatch, it's quality. I know it's not something that came out this year, but I finished what I wanted out of this collection this year. So I figured I'd share and let you know what was going on there. All right, so Christmas happened between the last bit and this bit. So, you know, Merry Christmas. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Everybody got, you know, their fill on food, festivities, and family and all that good stuff. It's kind of funny. The idea with this video was to do this and then upload it, and then Christmas would come and then I would do another part. But you know me, my videos are always longer, so it kind of is par for the course that, you know, I'll still be doing this. I'm still doing this video, a day after Christmas, a day or two after Christmas, right? Yeah, because Christmas was Friday. So anyway, so the next part that I wanted to get at was Joy Toy. So this year I picked up a ton of Joy Toy stuff, and I actually just yesterday this group came in. I had said a long time ago that I was going to finish up my my I call them the special police, but that's the special group. Essentially, they are like the SWAT team for the Fenris verse. So you have McLean and his people. We have our regular military, strike teams, which in my universe, the military is a lot smaller because you have strike teams to take the place of larger military. Because that's one thing they cut down on was straight up war, because war is what fucked up the earth in the first place. But anyway, in the domes, you have this team, the special police, that they travel from dome to dome in case shit gets too real. But I had these two from Them Guts. We call them Tango and Cash. It's a reference from my hardcore my action movie homies. It's Tango, Cash. Yeah, I liked them so much. I was like, yo, I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish off and get the rest of them. So I went back and I got the 5-pack. And then I threw in, what would we call those? An enforcer drone. And so, yeah, we've got a nice little team right here. And I threw in what just fell is something I'm going to talk about in a second. Because while I was at Walmart, I picked up something that I thought was going to blow my mind that didn't. But anyway, I put Fox Hunter with the hat she's the chief. I threw her in. She looks like she fits. It's one of the few times where I'm looking at them and I said, oh, based on the camo, let's throw them in together. Even though her camo is a little different, it's a little bit brighter than theirs, it's still urban camo and it fits with them. So I threw them together. They're really fun figures. They're more of the old school, where the neck separated a lot when you're moving them around, like at the base of the neck. So when you're trying to pop the heads off, the heads come off with the neck piece, which is annoying, kind of sucks. But I just glue the base of the neck in, or sometimes I'll put the glue in there and do the whole, move the neck around on the peg till it dries, because it makes the ball thicker, and that way it won't come off. The neck won't come off as easily, and that helps, So you can still have them lay prone, and then they can snipe, and it works, really well. Looks good too. So there's that. And I'm really happy with them. We'll put them back here so that I can get them out the way while we talk about some of these other guys, because I got a lot of other guys to talk about. I love this right here. Look at that Gatling gun. It's pretty dope. I always hated the term minigun, even though it's stuck, because there's nothing mini about it. It's still fucking huge. They're heavy as shit. They're Gatling guns. But anyway, my Christmas was a little unexpected as far as like what I got. I recognized that this year people were paying attention more. So it was nice. Things I asked for, things I would normally ask for, or what I got. I mean, there's usually Christmas comes and, you get a lot of sweaters. People ask you, what would you like? And then you get a sweater. It's like, I could go buy a sweater. I don't need a sweater, guys. But thank you. I'm grateful for it. This year I got a lot of stuff that I actually wanted, and I'm surprised. So let's talk about this. I'm not really going to spend much time on this side. I've already told you who these guys are, what they do, and all that stuff. And I got myself a Betty. I'll tell you that much. I was making that joke when me and Them Guts and ODCdatsme, we were talking about the Viper team and how cool Betty was. And I was like, you better go get yourself a Betty. And it took me a while. I got the Viper team without, hey, what are you doing? I guess I got to use my pointer now, because apparently my hands are throwing this thing out of focus. And I'm not even ashy. You would think that, if my hands were all ashy, I'd be like, okay. But anyway, I got the Viper team without Betty, and then I had to wait a few weeks for Betty to come because I couldn't for the life of me, let me get closer. I could not for the life of me find them all together. It was kind of frustrating because, there was a point in time where I remember when Betty just dropped, when the whole team just dropped, I was seeing her all over the place. And at first I had my suspicions, because there's a suspicion I have with a lot of figures when it comes to figures that are characters of color. But then she sold out. So I was like, I'm glad I'm wrong, because it's a dope ass design. I mean, granted, it's very much just the white version, all white version of her, but it's dope. You know what I mean? I mean, there's differences, don't get me wrong, but almost from head to toe, it's a reuse of parts. But, Betty has her own aesthetics. She has a cool face. Her haircut is dope. I dig her. There's things I don't like. Like, for some reason, she has the Parrish Company helmet. But I'm like, if this is your team, she should have this helmet. These guys are in space, clearly. They have like almost spacesuits on. Why would you give her a completely different helmet? So I don't like that. I have a helmet that I give her that fits what I want to use her for, and how it's something I do with some of my characters too, because I have my own little story going on. But yeah, dope ass group. The articulation is on point. The things that are lacking with Joe's and some of the other lines are not lacking here. She comes with a decent amount of stuff. Actually, I think she only came with a pistol and a rifle. If I remember correctly, she came with you see the rifle that guy back there is holding? She came with one of those, which is stupid. So I just gave her the extra rifle that came in the box with these guys, with the Blackhawks, which I'm going to get to in a second. But anyway, besides that, she's pretty dope. I don't really have any gripes, I want more. I wish they would make more accessories that come with them, so that like when you get the girl by herself, who's the captain of the team, she'll have a little arsenal of her own, so you can, kit them up, load them out the way you want them loaded up. But yeah, I'm impressed. She's good. She continues the pedigree that they've already set, and I'm happy. Now, one thing I will say that I'm getting sick of with Joy Toy is that there are 50 billion figures now wearing exosuits, which if you want an exosuit, then you have the pick of the litter. So that's dope. But in terms of them giving us variety, I'm not liking the mixing and matching and the constant reusing of parts. You're not Hasbro. Do your own thing. That's why you're going to see me slow down. In the midst of all this, I have 2 teams, 3. If I get to this, I will show you this last, the third team that has an exoskeleton. They come with an exoskeleton. No one is actually wearing the exoskeleton. So they give it to you as an option. It's not, and I mean, I guess it's always optional. You can take the exoskeletons off of any of the figures wearing them. It's not hard. Especially the way that Joy Toy figures can disassemble, especially if you heat them up. You can pop them apart, especially for repairs. That's the main reason why they pop apart like this. It's kind of like Figma. They have a joint system that you can remove the joints to repair them. And it makes it really easy to take care of these figures because, figures break. Like when I got the special group, these guys in the background, one of them, I can't remember which one it was. Somebody, it might have been this dude with the big gun, the Gatling gun. His arm at the elbow was busted, so I had to pull the elbow piece out, and then replace it. When I got the Chinese PLA team, one of their feet was broken, and I mentioned that in a previous video, and I was able to repair them. And when I got Perun Patrol, it's kind of weird. I wonder why they named them that. If it's Perun is the Russian god of, he's from Russian folklore. The Russian god of war, or god of thunder, I'm sorry. Anyway, when I got them, she was broken. Her whole shoulder came out. Was it her? Or was it the one? This one. One of the two of them, shoulder was busted. So I had to pop the shoulder out and then put in the replacement parts. The awesome thing is they come with replacement parts. And, you know, you collect enough of them over time, you end up with this. So I have this nice container full of weapons and replacement parts. It doesn't look like much, but trust me, it's a ton. I mean, when you look down here, I have extra heads. There's joints like for elbows and knees, and you know what I mean? Like all those pieces are in there. So, you know, if any of them break, I can fix them. I got parts for days. So, you know, I love what they're doing. It's why I give them so much props. And then the fact that it's all future stuff is making me really happy because that's my wheelhouse, you know? Let's see. I'm going to just move some of these cats in the front. Forgive me if they fall over because you know that's how it works. Matter of fact, okay, that was easier than I was expecting. So, the Blackhawks Squadron. These guys in my universe they're still the Blackhawks. That's the name of their squadron, but they are part of Helios Company. Helios Company protects the skies and space, you know, our planetary space. So they're the guys who are flying around. They're the aces, essentially. But they're the infantry part. So one or two of them will be in a ship with one of the pilots. And the Helios Company, what I did with them to make them different is the aces on this squad are all female. Now I did this for two reasons. I didn't have very many female characters, and I wanted to have like a unified team. And I'll show you what I did. So these two, they're two of the caps. So she's the captain of their ship called the Resolute 3. That's a reference that hopefully a couple of you will get. She was a pilot, of course. The pilots are all going to have this kind of color scheme, you know, the light blue. And I thought about it, and then the Perun Patrol came out, and I was like, oh, perfect. I can put them in here. So they are also considered, they're aces as well. But this is their gear for, you know, they're geared up, strapped up for whenever they get, you know, off-world. And it's perfect because they have those cool helmets, which let me grab one of them and show you that. And the helmets do remind me of, you know, like fighter pilots somewhat, because they have the gas mask piece to it. You see that? I love it. So I was like, hey, futuristic fighter pilots, perfect. It just gives you variety. I like having female characters, but rather than make it stupid like that Avengers plot or Avengers moment in Endgame where you just have the girls getting it done, like, we don't need to do that. What I wanted to do was just have an area where these particular pilots happen to be the most creative, the most, you know, I don't know, the technically sound, because you don't normally see that, you know? So in this universe, you got them as the aces, you got them as the infantry or the backup. If they fail, you have them piloting as well, because they're all of them are pilots, you know? So the Black Hawk team is essentially their muscle, you know? Call it old fashioned, call it what you will. I like it. It works for me. And then the cap, she is pretty badass. Her code name is Slipstream. She pilots a very futuristic fighter, very fast fighter, hence the name. And, you know, eventually you'll see that. I'm not going to give away everything because too many biting. Too many biting. So I'm going to keep that to myself. But this has been fun. These guys are really cool. And what I was getting to was that the Perun Patrol come with... I got to actually find where that container is. Give me a second. Okay, so yeah, Perun Patrol comes with this exosuit. And if you want... Come on, zoom in. What are you doing? Really? Is it that difficult? If you want, you can always, you know, outfit somebody with it. And these are pretty awesome because they really work. The joints aren't too stiff. Everything moves well with the character, so you don't have any issues trying to put them on there. So you have options, you know, and I like that. Now, before I jump into the skulls, one of the things I love about these guys here is I enjoyed Infinite Warfare. A lot of people complained, it's too futuristic. I want it to be boots on the ground, World War II or one again and again and again. And I'm just like, you guys need to get over yourselves. How many times are you going to keep on playing a fake version of what actually happened? You know, some of us want variety. And I'm not even a Call of Duty fan like that, but I thoroughly loved Infinite Warfare. Everything that I expected or that I wanted from a game that takes place in space, you know, warfare in space. It was there, and the characters were well written. The tech made sense. It wasn't too futuristic to the point of being absurd. And the characters were just, I have to reiterate how well written the characters were. But their gear, this is 100% the kind of gear you had in that movie or that game. Minus your booster pack, because you have like, or jump kit, I think is what they called them in the game. But the shield, you had a shield like this, except it was the center part was smaller, but the shape, all this geometry over here, like the length of the shield, it was all transparent, or at least you could see through the other end because it all folded out on your wrist, which was amazing. You know, it's cool stuff, and you could, you know, summon it when you needed it, and it had like a cooldown and everything like that. So it was dope, you know. So I just when I got them, I had already planned on getting them. Then I got them and I beat Infinite Warfare, and I was like, holy shit, these guys straight up jacked the designs for Infinite Warfare, or at least they paid homage to them, because it's very similar, but like colors are different. Like where they have silver on their chests, you already were all gray. And then where they have black, you had like camo of some sort, you know? Um, it's like slight differences, you know? But yeah, it's they're dope in that respect. I enjoyed them simply for that reason, you know? They just feel more they feel at home in the kind of future universe that I was creating. What I didn't like is that it had the terrible Call of Duty writing where you have to kill off 95% of the cast, because in real life, you know, missions like that result in high casualties. But the difference in my world is that you have strike teams that are like 8 people to 10 people deep. And that's it. That's the whole squad. So they are the literal best of the best. So like there's situations in which characters died in that story in you know, Infinite Warfare. They died because the story dictated it, not because they couldn't have possibly found a way through it. Whereas in my universe, that same shit would happen, and you'd be like, "Damn!" Because they would come up with a smart last minute you know, solution to get out of it, because that's part of the plan. You can't be the best of the best if you don't think quickly. You know, you should be super fast on your feet and come up with plans that can save others and help you complete your mission, because that's why you're there. You know, if you couldn't do that, they wouldn't have put you on the team. So that's the difference between my guys and those guys. And, you know, this isn't to say anything about actual military professionals, because we're talking about toys. You have a lot of guys who, they're crazy. They come up with some great shit at the spur of the moment, and that's how they live to tell the tale. You know, you have a lot of guys who play the part. They look the part. They got the beard. They got the speak down and all that shit, but they're not really that good in the field. You know what I mean? And I'm speaking from experience on a different side. You know, like I said, I was never in the military. I was in law enforcement, so it's different. But yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, I dig this. I dig the callback. You know. So Reaper Team. So the Reaper Team, or as they're called by Joy Toy, the Grim Reapers, which I think is just cheesy. I mean, anytime you have those edgelord names like Reaper or Prince of Darkness 988 or some bullshit like that, it's just too try hard, and I stay away from that kind of shit. But the Reaper Team, as they were named by Joy Toy. I like the aesthetic, I like the design. The red skull face on their helmets is very striking. There's no way that that wouldn't etch, like, you know, that image wouldn't be etched in your mind had your people, you know, or you met your end, or, you know, you had a close call dealing with these guys. You'll remember it for the rest of your life. Now, one of the things that I liked, me and Agent O, we kept calling them the Axe Gang because they're like the Axe Gang, you know, the future version of the Axe Gang, because they come with these. Really? There we go. They come with axes. I don't know why it's not clear. It's like struggling or something. But yeah, these wonderful little axes, and I like that. So up close and personal, they can Assassin's Creed 3 your ass, you know, like Connor. Just be fucking you up with some axes. So I like that. Their melee weapon up close is not a knife, even though one of them does have a knife. I replaced some of the axes. I think they actually don't come with these specific axes. They come with the axe that you see hanging down over here with the handle down at the bottom instead of the whole length of it being like that. And they're all black. I also replaced one of them, the melee guy. I replaced the axes. Or wait, he's not the melee guy. I think that one is. The heavy is. Right? Yeah. So he's the well-rounded dude. I gave him the old axe that I used to have on Kill Streak. If you look down there on his side, you see that? So, and that's the one that came in the Cobra Frogman 2-pack. You know what I'm talking about? It came with, was it called Danger at the Docks? That's what it was called. It came inside the Foot Locker. But anyway, I like these guys. And then Selena, or Celine, I am a death dealer. Anyway, she's dope. I like her design. I like her whole shtick. Everything looks good. She even comes with a helmet with the skull, which is why I don't like the fact that Betty, who will probably be her arch nemesis, these two will be going back and forth, doesn't come with the same helmet as these guys. Like, it's stupid. So pretty much I'm going to have to buy another, you know, one of these guys to put that gear on her, to put the helmet on her. And the helmet's not going to be a perfect fit because the helmets on them, if I do have a gripe with the Viper team, is that the helmets sit way too high and they don't hold on without help. You need like sticky tack or tape or something in there to like fill it up so that it's tight enough that it doesn't just come off when you move them around. So that's frustrating. But you know, it's a small fix. You know, it's something that you run into with a lot of GI Joes. I mean, I never have that issue with Marauders. I have to say with Marauders, every time I make a Marauders character, everything works the way it's supposed to work. And that's always been something that keeps me really happy with them because, I mean, they just make dope stuff. But yeah, her whole design is pretty dope. It makes sense. Nothing's missing. Nothing falls off. Everything holds on properly. Her exoskeleton fits properly. If I pose her, it moves with her posing. The one thing that you sometimes have to look out for is the on their backs, and I'll just turn her around so you can see this. You see that spine? Let me get closer. The spine actually, like, and we'll zoom in a little. The spine actually connects to the base of the belt right there. And so if you're moving her a certain way sometimes, it will it'll pop out. So I glued it in with Gorilla Glue. That's my go-to glue. A lot of people don't like it, but the Gorilla Glue super glue works perfectly for these small kinds of figures. That's what I glue all my Marauder stuff with. It doesn't bubble up like old school Gorilla Glue does. And you don't need to wet the surface first before you apply the glue. So I use Gorilla Glue, never even have to come back and look at this shit. It just stays. But yeah, when you're moving them around, you may not even be thinking about it because she's small compared to the other guys. So the armor kind of moves around a little more with her. So if you put her in a certain pose, you might shift the spine a certain way and then it'll pop out of the belt. So I glued that in place so that it doesn't come out. And I ended up doing it for everyone just in case because I don't want to have to deal with fixing all that shit over and over and over and over and over. So, you know, that's it. But that's the only downside. Other than that, these guys are nearly perfect. I mean, there's nothing more to ask for with them, you know. They look the part. They can act the part, you know. They're like pretty damn on point, you know. I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any issues with them. I was just like, man, having fun with them from day one. So yeah, these guys are dope. I don't know if you can find them anymore for a decent price because they always They always go for, you know, like an arm and a leg because, you know, they're not on the what you call it site anymore, on the Locker Toys site and whatnot. But I think you can find them on eBay. They're going to be a little bit more expensive if you get them all together. They're going to be a lot of expensive if you buy them separately. So I say always look for them in a group, because then you can get them for a decent amount of money. You know, you won't be spending too much because, you know, at the end of the day, these are roughly $30 figures. So they eclipse whatever you get from G.I. Joe just off the bat because of the fact that they actually thought about that stuff. So you want to be very careful how much you pay for them. But if you're rich and you don't give a damn, then hey, you do what you do because you got them bands. So, you know, spend them bands, you know, spend them racks on racks on racks, and, you know, call it a day. But for the rest of us, be careful what price you pay for them. Don't go too crazy with them. If you can find two of them for, you know, a good price, do it. Because I think for the four of them when they came out, I spent $60 or $70. That was the deal on Locker Toys, which they often do. And then I saw them on eBay as a group for about 70, you know, maybe 75, close to $80. And then, of course, you always have those folks that always ask for 100 plus for anything they sell. So those things were there. But yeah, don't go crazy. Don't spend 50 for just one of them unless you only plan on getting one of them. That's the only way it would be worth it. Outside of that, steer clear of them, you know, like the plague. You know, you don't need that shit. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so this guy here, this is the Jazzwares Halo Universe, I'm sorry, Spartan Collection Master Chief. Now, this is the suit as seen in the package, according to the box, or according to what I know about Halo. I am a Halo fan. I have been for a long time, even though I didn't own an Xbox until fairly recently. I had friends that did, and we had so much fun playing Halo 1, 2, and ODST. So that, you know, I have a very fond recollection of this series. I enjoyed the animation too, the package. That was actually my favorite part on the whole Halo Legends release. Anyway, if you've been on my channel for a while, you've seen my dabblings with Halo. I've mentioned which ones I liked, which ones I didn't like. I've bought a lot of the McFarlane stuff. I always pointed out what worked with them and what didn't work, because the fan base is kind of dumb when it comes to what makes for a good Halo figure, you know? Like, you listen to Anthony's Customs, give props to Halo figures that can't move. Articulated Halo figures that can't move. And he's not just saying that the sculpt was good, he's saying it's a good figure. And this is a guy who will go on and on and on and on and on and on about articulation and how anatomy works and blah, 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 blah. And then he's giving props to figures that can't move. And I was like, yeah, no, in this case. Number one, I'm not even going to talk about the articulation. Let's just talk about the base figure. So I'm going to put him standing up next to the McFarlane release of the same exact figure, so you can see for yourself the things that are off. I mean, you say what you want about, you know, you can be as nerdy as you want to be about the size of things, and, you know, and the one thing I'll give them props for is that he has the size. He looks right as far as height compared to other 6-inch scale, you know, figures. But like, his anatomy is all over the place, and just some of it is just poorly done. A lot of it is poorly done. So here is Spartan Collection Master Chief next to the McFarlane Master Chief from, well, actually, he wasn't Master Chief yet. He was John 117. You know, this isn't a full-on review. This is just like my thoughts on what they've done. And I'm not impressed with what they've done. I feel like sculpt-wise, it's serviceable, you know? And serviceable is fine. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I dug the Mattel versions of the Halo 5 Guardians figures, even though their armor constantly would fall off on certain figures. And some people said some of their gear is oversized. And that's another thing that I have to point out with, you know, these figures versus those figures is certain things like, for instance, look at the battle rifles. Why is the new one that goes to the ginormous figure smaller? Look at it. It's smaller, it's skinnier. See that? It's shorter. And this gun works better in his hands. This gun is so skinny that even when you go back and you put it into the smaller figure's hands, see that? So skinny. You put it in the smaller figure's hands, like them, it works. In his hands, it just doesn't do anything. There's also little weird things like they don't have a ball joint at the wrist, and they don't have the up-down hinge at the wrist. So the way that, you know, G.I. Joes and some of the Fortnite figure, actually no, Fortnite figures don't have it, but G.I. Joes typically have this joint here so that they can aim down, so that when you put the gun in front of you in real life, when you hold a machine gun or even some pistols, depending on what you're trying to do, I don't know why you're holding your head like that. You tuck your elbows in, you know, and then you aim down the sights. If you notice, that's what people will say, you know, Keanu Reeves is boring as John Wick because of that generic, very like, this is what you're taught to do kind of positioning with your gun. I mean, this isn't perfect right now, but you get the idea, right? So if he was holding like a machine gun, which I can actually do that with him, I'll have him hold the battle rifle, which you'll probably see it flop around in his hands too, because like I said, the handle is too damn small. When he's holding a rifle, he can look down the sights properly because he can put his elbows in. Yeah, it's so wobbly. See that? That's what you're supposed to do. Now, Master Chief can't do that. This big Master Chief can't do it because they didn't give him the proper joint in his hands. And he comes with a bunch of hands. So it's like, why give him a bunch of hands if you're not even going to give him the one that matters? And I don't know. People will say I'm nitpicking, but I mean, how many times do we have to do this before, you know, people recognize what's right and what's done correctly and what's done incorrectly? Like, this is probably the 7th or 8th Master Chief that I've bought, and I actually vowed to kind of slow down on that because I don't need that many when I think that, you know, the McFarlane version of the Guardians figure is dope. His articulation is actually pretty damn on point, even though it's not consistent in the rest of the line, because there's other figures that are just stiff as fuck. You know, you have this guy who's okay. His range of motion sucks, but he has articulation in most of the places that you can, you know, that you would need it. And then like in the Jazzwares arena, their 4-inch figures are fucking amazing. So like, why is it the 4-inch figure can do it, but the 6-inch, 7-inch figure can't? It should be easier on this because he's huge. You could fix things. And then there's weird stuff like his knees. It's a really nice range of motion. Kicks the shit out of this and the Mattel version as far as range goes. But it's just ugly as fuck. Look at this shit. It's the biggest knee I've ever seen. Look at that. What? Ew. The knee joint is almost as long as his shin. Like, that's just gross. I mean, but it works, you know, as long as you position it the right way. Like if you only use the bottom or the top bend, then it's perfect. Kind of. Still weird. Ugh. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird stuff. Or like the fact that he's knock-kneed. Why do his knees turn in? And then you could turn the legs out, right? But then he starts leaning forward because of the way they sculpted the butt. So like you turn the knees this way, he stands up straight. See? Knees in, straight. As soon as I start twisting them outward, he starts bending over. That's the knees where they should be. So there's a lot of weird things about the anatomy of this figure. He's got a bicep swivel, right? But, and he also has like a built-in, ooh, did I just break something? Oh, I didn't. He has a built-in, oh wait, maybe I did. He has a built-in butterfly joint, right? But it doesn't actually do anything because when you use it, then this and his bicep get in the way on his against his chest, and so you can't really utilize that joint the way you were meant to. Now, when his arms are out like this, it's okay, but then again, you can't do it because the shoulder pauldrons get in the way. So it's like he didn't need a butterfly joint, and if you're going to give him one, then the pauldrons needed to be on a joint, either a ball joint or a hinge joint, so they could move outward more. You know what I mean? More in that direction. So it's like little things. But what I've been hearing and I've been reading is that apparently this is the first figure by the team that made this figure. So you got to give them props, you know, for the first figure they've ever done. It's pretty damn dope, you know. I give Jazzwares props for not going with the same people who make all the damn figures, because how will we ever get any innovation if the same handful of people are making all the toys? You know, Hasbro has the same people working on the same figures. I think it's mostly people who have worked for Gentle Giant or work for Gentle Giant. They outsource all that. And then they have like a handful of people left over. Let me look at who did this. Wicked Cool Toys. They sculpted these and everything. So maybe the sculpting was done by them and the engineering was done by someone else, but it's okay. It's just not amazing, you know? But he's huge. I mean, they really, really did, like, you know how you read that the Spartans are supposed to be like 7 feet tall? Like, that looks correct. So, you know, I give them that, you know, especially since the Mattel ones are in line with your regular figures. So they're like regular people in spacesuits, whereas they're supposed to be giant, you know, freaking, mountain, mountain of a man, mountains of women, you know, they're just supposed to be ginormous people. So, you know, they're super soldiers after all. So anyway, just something I wanted to talk about because you're going to see a lot of praise because it's the new shit, but not a lot of logic, you know? And that always bothers me. So keep that in mind when you see these guys. I honestly get these. If you have to get new Halo stuff, get these guys. My son got this for me for Christmas. Or my sons, actually, I should say, they got this to me. He came with a grunt, you know, the little alien grunts. So it's kind of cool having both. This guy would go well with my modern military. Scabcat242 has done reviews on these guys, and he was impressed with them too. And I see why. They're not perfect, don't get me wrong. The guns are made out of a kind of flimsy plastic, but, you know, we collect, you know, 18 scale figures. We've got tons of guns to give him, you know what I mean? But at least he came with a gun. He holds the gun well. He articulates really well. You know, the head actually can tilt to look like he's looking down the sights in this big ass helmet. The armor is painted well, sculpted well. I mean, it's just a really well done figure. So yeah, stick with these and just ignore these big ass things, you know, until at least maybe the next like 2 or 3 waves down the line. I feel like they're being smart by doing both, because that way they hit both demographics and they make all the money. Because, you know, there's the 6-inch people out there who can't just wrap their mind around the fact that some figures just don't come in 6-inch scale. But now they're getting to have their cake and eat it too. And I have a feeling that you're going to see more companies do this, where they're going to make 6-inch versions and whatever other scale they do, even if it's like 12-inch figures or whatever, just to capitalize on this market. And then eventually it's going to run its course and they're just going to go back to what they were doing before. But I'm not that impressed with this. I don't even want to give this to one of my sons. I might just take it back. And, you know, sometimes I feel like, you know, when figures aren't as like well done, if you have that kid who's rough on his toys, this might be like, if it's a tough build quality, but the figure itself aesthetically doesn't fit what me as a collector, what I'm looking for, you give it to the kid who will beat the shit out of his figures. But like, there's basic things he needs to do, you know? Like, I would probably give my kids one of the Mattel ones first, glue the gear on, and then, you know, let them beat this guy up, as opposed to this, where I can already tell the first thing that's going to break on him will be these shoulder pads. They're going to pop off. It's the first thing that's going to happen because they're glued right down there at the bottom. And then, you know, moving him up, moving his arm up, moving it down, moving his arm up, moving it down. It's going to keep bumping into the torso armor, and then eventually it's just going to pop off. So that wasn't well engineered. I mean, it's one of the only things. Then other things that will be lost, which this is actually really cool, is so this little piece right here, focus, man. I guess we'll have to do it like that. This little piece right here, you can pull it out. See, you have a hole. So then you flip this, and now you have a peg so that you can put the pistol on said peg. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty nice, considering all the other Halo figures, they have like a peg system where you have to add the peg for it to work. But that's nice. So you can have it look clean if you wanted to, and then have it, you know, sticking out. But that's cool. It's a cool little bit of engineering, but that's it, you know? That's it. So like, yeah, all the praise that I've heard given to this figure, it's a little bit unfounded because it's just kind of nice in some ways, but it's not better than what we've been getting before. And that's what we need if they're going to keep on selling the, you know, selling the rights to these figures to different companies and keep giving us the same characters over and over. Because, you know, we have a lot of certain characters, but we don't have a lot of others. And we need those other people. Like, I need all the villains to Halo first, because we already got most of the Spartans, even the ones that were just freaking skins and shit. We got those already. I need villains. So yeah, this is okay. Not amazing in any way, shape, or form. Kind of disappointing in my opinion. You know, he's not that, like, I mean, for $20, actually, it's an amazing figure. We'll put it like that. Because he's regular price and you get a lot in the package. But for a collector-based figure, you know, even compared to smaller figures, he doesn't quite do it. So I will be skipping that, and then we will be jumping into one last thing before I close this up for the night. I was going to get into Transformers stuff, but I think I'll do that in another video, because we've already been on this for a couple hours. But, you know, it's nice to sit down with you guys and talk to you and let you see some things. So I have been collecting, or helping my son collect, Fortnite figures. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, you can make Fortnite figures? Fortnite figures are stupid. They're not G.I. Joe. They're better. They are 100% better. The materials are better. The freaking paint, better, because there's paint. It's not like with your Joes where it's mostly plastic and no paint, you know? They paint these figures, and they use pretty good plastic as well. I'll grab him too so you can see him. And then I have one more. Actually, we got a couple more in here. My son and I were coming up with stories and playing them out, actually. How some of these characters, you know, where they fit. Because we have all these characters existing in the same verse. So you see all this stuff in the Fenris verse. So Carbide is kind of like a famous superhero slash bounty hunter. And his partner, he's the partner for my homeboy here, Ultima Knight. The two of them work together. It's like they used to be heroes. They fought in a big, crazy looking battle or crazy situation. And then when that was over, what do? They became bounty hunters because they had to make money. So at the same time, protecting them wherever they live, and protecting their cities, and then they're you know, making that money on the side. But so everything that I complain about with a lot of figures, and I'll put him in here just because it's the same, company. The things I complain about that like a lot of companies don't do and that companies forget that are necessary, Jazzwares is doing here. And it's making for way better figures that are easy to play with. And like, I made this comment years ago about how Imaginext were the best figure line ever made. And I still stand by it. Everything you could imagine has been made in Imaginext in some way, shape, or form. Even things that aren't appropriate for the age group, but they found a way to sneak it in, so that kids would get to have, more mature characters like fucking Swamp Thing and Abby Arcane. What little kid needs to even look at that shit? Like when I was a kid, I wasn't even interested in Swamp Thing, and then when I figured it out, past the cartoon, when I figured out what was going on, I understood what was going on in the comics. I was like, damn, this is actually really deep. But I was getting to my teens by the time that made sense to me. There's no way I would have understood that, Abby was in a relationship with Swamp Thing, like physical, mental, the whole nine. Ew, you know what I mean? But they made that. Or like Walter White, they made a Walter White figure. What kid is watching? What little kid between the ages of 3 and maybe like 8 is watching Breaking Bad? You know what I mean? Like they have no business watching that shit. If you're doing your job as a parent, there's no reason why they should be watching that. But they did it. Power Rangers, everything that adults are sitting here trying to, scalp the fuck out of each other for. Mattel had already, Fisher Price had already been doing this in freaking Imaginext. They had an Imaginext Megazord that was 4 feet tall. It freaking dwarfs Omega Supreme, and it didn't cost $500. It didn't even cost $100. All the Rangers, the power, what was their base called? The command center. They had, wow, that's pretty lame that I had to think about that. The command center, they had that play set with Zordon, and it came with Alpha. Zordon's part of the play set. With us, we have to buy all the things separate. Just think about it, and people will come up with excuses, but don't listen, because it's been proven that it can be done in a cost-effective way and still be fun and durable for you to play with, Instead, you got to buy a box set with this character and a box set with this character. Sometimes they sell you a single carded character only to resell the same character in a box set, and you're like, fuck, I already have this guy. I don't want another one. But anyway, with these guys, they give you so much variety. And these are just the ones I own. Actually, I don't own him. This is my son's. But the rest of them, let me move him out the way. But look at him. Just look at that. Look at that blue. That blue is so pretty. And yeah, he's using some guns from the core and from Halo. We depending on what their jobs are, we switch around and have them use, weapons from other things. So he's hardcore, so he uses gear from Halo. He's kind of like Alcatraz from Crisis. And that was our idea for him based on his suit. But anyway, when you look at them, there's so much detail on these guys, and each one has a different shtick from the others. Like, look at this dude, Keymaster. Or Master Key, I think that's what he's called. I call him Fei Hong. And for my martial arts heads, they'll understand why I would call him Fei Hong. But look at that. With the hood and the jacket and the stripes and then the keys on his belt hanging off over on the sides. Look at that. It's just so well done. In a slop, you would expect like the figures would have slop, right? You're paying $40 a pop for G.I. Joes because, they're no longer on the shelves, even though now they technically are. And it's the same ones that you've been trying to buy on eBay, except now they're in new packaging. So you think you're getting something new when in reality, you're getting the same shit you already bought. But there's no slop. I should say minimal slop. But look at that. Like, look on his eyes. And matter of fact, we're gonna get up on this dude because I gotta give you. Look at that. Look at the teeth. Look at his gums. If that was a G.I. Joe, there would have been red all up on his face and shit. And this is coming from Jazzwares, fam. Jazzwares. When I tell you guys that when I started seeing this stuff, when my son, because my son doesn't play Fortnite. It's weird. The older one plays Fortnite. He's not a huge fan of it. The younger one doesn't even have any interest in it. He just likes some of the designs because he looks at the artwork like I do. He even has the compound leg. You know what I mean? Look at that shit, man. How can you not be impressed with this? And the jacket is a separate piece. And they didn't bother to continue the jacket on his arms because the sleeves are ripped because his arms got bigger because he's like a werewolf. He came with the Red Riding Hood figure, Fable, who is one of my favorite designs. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to get this. So I got this. She's like Boletta from, in my world, she's like Boletta from, I put that rubber band with the knife when we were playing with her. But she's like Baby Bonnie Hood from Darkstalkers or Night Warriors. But I mean, just look at the amount of detail. And then on top of that, her articulation is on point. She doesn't look crappy. She can turn her head even with this hood on. I think the hood actually can just slide off. There's like a, yeah, there's always like a peg. See that? There's always some kind of peg that, Jesus Christ, will you guys fucking, yeah, you see the peg? And it always goes into the back of the figure so that you can make sure that if you want to switch it up and you want to see what the figure looks like, you have that option. The Joes, man, he would have had a hood stuck to the head, and then you wouldn't be able to turn the head properly because the head would be behind the hood and all this nonsense that just makes it more complicated. And the only thing that sees you through all that frustration or all that extra is your love for the characters. You know what I mean? Like, we love Zartan, so we don't complain. We just play with Zartan the way Zartan was offered. You know what I'm saying? Whereas here, they're like, oh yeah, what if you want to see, you know, a kid is going to want to see what the figure looks like underneath all the gear. So a kid is going to try to pull all this shit off. So what they do, they said, hey, you can take it off. Simple. I mean, this knife thing gets on my nerves right here because it's all flimsy. It was flimsy in the box because she was held in with, you know, rubber bands and stuff. But none of it's falling off. So I got to give them props for that. I mean, look at the belt buckles. They're not the greatest, but look, they even painted those. It gets the point across. Like, this one's better. This side is better than this side. But you get the point, you know? And this is Jazzwares. Of all the companies to do this right, it's Jazzwares. You remember when Jazzwares was making those laughable ass wrestling figures? I know a lot of you remember them because a lot of you collected wrestling figures, and some of you still do. I remember seeing them when I would go to KB Toys, and I'd be like, "Woof, that is terrible. That doesn't look anything like, you know, whoever it was supposed to be." Because in most cases, it didn't. Freaking Sable looked all weird, man. They had those giant legs and giant arms and shit, and it's just like, oof, you look so bad, girl. What'd they do to you? I don't even want to look at your puppies because you look so deformed. Oh, but yeah, these guys are on point, you know. Whatever suits my fancy in this line is where I go when it comes to them. Some of them are better than others. This was the first one to make me go like, yeah, I'm going to get this because I like the way this looks. He kind of reminds me of Bee Fighter Kabuto, which was the second season of Joku Bee Fighter. In America, that was called Beetleborgs. But one of the Beetleborgs, I think it was in America, that season was called Beetleborgs Metallics, I think. Anyway, I hated that show with a passion, but I loved Bee Fighter because Bee Fighter was hardcore. I mean, they would kill monsters and then they would bleed out like white blood. It was like spraying everywhere and shit. And I was just like, whoa, this is fucking dope. Like, I got into it. I really got into it. Same thing with Blue SWAT. I got into that too for the same reason. Guys, like like elite officers in armor fighting aliens and monsters and shit, and they'd be using military techniques on these monsters and shit, cutting their throats, and it was just dope. But anyway, I get that feel from him. And then the gold like stag beetle or rhinoceros beetle helmet, it's dope. He almost feels like he got pushed out of Destiny. You know what I mean? Like, and I like the designs in Destiny. I just hate the fucking game. So yeah, like this, I was all about this, you know, seeing this just was like, whoo, this is dope. So the point, and I'm finishing on this note, is you guys need to expand your horizons and then don't knock some of this stuff until you try it. I'm not telling you to everybody to jump on. It may still not be your thing, but understand that where you know one version of this game, you know, this action figure game, you know a version of it, there's a whole nother version out there in which things are being done in a slightly better, you know, it's not even slightly, it's a lot better because they're durable as fuck. My son hasn't broken, I think one of his figures broke. And it was kind of a defect, but he also was messing with his head too much. The necks have a hinge joint like the old Marvel Legends, so they can look up and down, but then that is on a ball joint, that hinge. The head sits on the ball joint sits on a hinge. Sometimes it's stuck. So he was trying to move it and he broke the head on one of the figures, but we fixed it. But that was the only thing that broke. Everything else, and he's got a ton of these guys, everything else has worked. On mine, the ones that are stuck, I heat them up. We're all good, just like with any other figure. Sometimes I can crack the paint without even heating it up. Just get out your X-Acto knife, cut in between the joint, and free it from the paint that's stuck in there sometimes. But they're dope. They're dope. Joints are always nice and tight. I mean, over a while, their thigh joints, the ball joint in their hips, it'll get slack, but you can always fill that. Either use putty, use the super glue method or the nail polish method. You know how to build it up and then move it around and call it a day. So, excuse me. Overall, it's just really dope. You know, really well done. It's just quality. I'm surprised that they haven't caught on the way, and I'm kind of glad because, to be honest with you, and this is why I've been holding off from doing this, but I figure they're sitting on my desk. I may as well mention some of them. Usually we introduce stuff on these kinds of videos, and then all of a sudden, like vultures, the usual suspects jump on shit and they buy all of it up or they start scalping it. And then you can't find the things you like. And I've experienced this a number of times. I've seen it with comics, when Comics Explain sheds light on a specific, storyline in Marvel Comics. And then all the fucking vultures go out and then they do their usual bullshit, and they gatekeep the fuck out of some stuff that anybody else could have gotten a hold of until their dumbasses got a hold of it. It doesn't need to be $500 because Comic Explain talked about it. You know what I'm saying? Or like people scalping figures. These figures don't need to become, $50 figures because, Strydent mentioned it, or because, I don't know, who are people that you guys like to listen to? Hooded Cobra Commander, or, any of those guys that you usually listen to that have the highest view counts, or sub counts. Just because they mentioned it doesn't mean now you got to go out and make the shit hard for everybody to find, because that's not the point. The point was always that these are alternatives that are affordable. At least when I give you these, I'm giving you affordable alternatives. Yes, Joy Toy is more expensive, but that's more towards the collector side. These are supposed to be affordable, Same thing goes for like Lightning Collection. But you see how that's going, because it's made by Hasbro. The same people who scalp all of Hasbro's products are scalping the Lightning Collection, and they don't know who the fuck these characters are, other than they know they're Power Rangers. You know what I mean? Because everybody knows what a Power Ranger is. But it's frustrating, and it shouldn't be like that, It shouldn't be where you have to struggle to find this stuff simply because, certain people were made aware of it. So just keep it in mind. You may be looking to customize. It'd be better to customize one of these than it is to go spend $40 on a Joe and then rip him apart and customize him and still not get all the, movement and everything out of him. I recommend, looking into some of these. Obviously, be responsible about how you do it. Don't just buy up all the shit just because, because there's people who this is their shit and they would like to get involved. They would like to be able to continue to collect their shit, We got to think about the other people out there too, because a lot of us are extremely fortunate, which is something that this Christmas, brought to light. I mean, I already knew it, but it reiterated it for me. Is that, we're pretty fortunate to be able to do all this during a fucking pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. I'm going to repeat that shit. Global. This is worldwide pandemic. There's people losing their jobs because certain industries have been completely shut the fuck down. And here we are collecting action figures by the bulk. You know what I mean? So some things need to change about how people go about doing it. And I know people are going to hear what I'm saying and then they're going to just be like, fuck it. And they're going to do what they always do. But for those of you who have a conscience, think about that shit. We're very fortunate to be able to do what we're doing. And there are some people out there who they can't afford to get the crazier shit that we collect. Let them have their Fortnites. You know what I mean? Let them have their Lightning collection that they can find in the store. You know what I mean? We need to be able to find that shit in the store. Think about it. When we do make our trip to get groceries or whatever, those of us with common sense, we need to get our groceries. We need to get other stuff. We can stop in the toy aisle and be like, oh shit, look, there's that thing I like. Let me grab that along with my groceries and shit and go home, instead of having to go on eBay and deal with scalpers galore before you find that one that's reasonably priced. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I'm done being Papa Strydent and taking y'all to church. And that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you had a happy holiday. I hope everything's good for you guys. And I will see you with our end of the year. I'll see you in our end of the year video. So that's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.